Chapter 1700. Yi Qianqian noticed his reaction and burst out laughing. She found it amusing, so she raised her head and kissed him again. This time, Shen Jilia was prepared, so he didn't have any reaction. He deliberately glanced at her with a straight face and said, "Are you going to come down yourself? Or do you want me to throw you down?" Yi Qianqian quickly wrapped her arms around his neck and closed her eyes. Shen Jilia walked toward the shore step by step. Because it was night time, there were many more water taxis. Shen Jilia gave the address of the hotel and carried Yi Qianqian in to lie down. As soon as she got on the boat, Yi Qianqian immediately got up. She didn't look as weak as before. Shen Jilia was so angry that he laughed and said, "Are you messing with me?" Yi Qianqian turned her head and chuckled. Shen Jilia then realized that her face was completely red. From her cheeks to her forehead, it was a clear sign that she had been drinking. He reached out to touch her face. It was warm. Yi Qianqian slapped his hand away in disgust. She leaned against the window and looked out. The water taxis shuttled through various waterways. Everywhere they went, the scenery outside was brilliant. The clear and deep water reflected the dazzling lights of various colors. It was so fast that Yi Qianqian felt like she was in a dream. Her head was dizzy. Shen Jilia supported her from behind, afraid that she would lose her balance and fall. Yi Qianqian, on the other hand, was steady. She leaned against the window, with an intoxicated look on her face. It took about 20 minutes to reach their destination. Yi Qianqian saw that everything had stopped, and turned her head to look behind her. Shen Jilia paid the taxi fare. When he noticed her gaze, he snorted with an indescribable emotion. Then he turned around and opened the door. Shen Jilia looked at Yi Qianqian, and half carried her down. It wasn't easy at all. Yi Qianqian blinked and asked, "Shen Jilia, you have to take care of me when you come out to play. Aren't you tired?" Shen Jilia looked gratified as he placed his hand on her forehead and stroked her. He nodded and said, "You finally realized it. Not bad. Go away." Yi Qianqian slapped his hand away. "Don't carry me if you're tired. I can walk on my own." "Oomph." Shen Jilia scooped her up in his arms. "Even if I'm tired, this is all I can do. Don't tell me I don't care about you. I'm not crippled. I can walk on my own." Yi Qianqian struggled a little. Shen Jilia immediately held her down. "Don't move. You're so heavy. If you move, I'll fall too." "Shen Jilia. Ha ha ha, behave yourself." With that said, he strode into the hotel. The security checked the key card, then brought them to the elevator door, pressed the elevator button, and sent them in. Yi Qianqian leaned on Shen Jilia's shoulder. She stared at Shen Jilia's chin with her eyes that were neither sober nor dizzy. Shen Jilia knew that she was looking at him. At first, he only glanced at her and asked, "Am I very handsome?" Yi Qianqian's eyes were wide open, but she didn't say a word. Shen Jilia felt a little uncomfortable under her gaze, and he turned to look at her. Ding, the elevator arrived, and Shen Jilia stepped forward. After Yi Qianqian opened the door with the key card, she twisted her body and said, "Put me down." He loosened his grip and put her down. Yi Qianqian immediately ran to the bathroom. Shen Jilia finally breathed a sigh of relief. When he came back to his senses, he realized that he was already sweating. He took off his shirt, got a bottle of water, and sat on the sofa. Chapter 1701. Is Yi Qianqian taking a shower? Shen Jilia looked at the time. It was still early. It was only a little past 7 in the evening. But when he thought about it, it made sense. She had woken up before 6 o'clock, and she had been out and about all day. It was only natural for her to be sleepy. However, when Shen Jilia heard the sound of the water, his emotions, which had been surging uncontrollably, became even more restless. He was thirsty. He was even thirstier. Shen Jilia gulped down 2 mouthfuls of water and let out a long breath. He stood up and went to the French windows to open them. A cool breeze swept over, and he felt more awake. Shen Jilia leaned against the railing and took a deep breath. Drunk women are really troublesome. Shen Jilia stayed for a while longer. Suddenly, he heard the bathroom door open behind him. He turned his head and saw Yi Qianqian walking out. But she was dressed in a completely different outfit. With just one look, Shen Jilia felt a rush of blood rush to his head. The restless emotions that he had just calmed down suddenly became active again. And compared to before, it was even fiercer and more intense. She was actually not wearing any clothes. She was wrapped in a bath towel. She didn't seem to expect Shenjilia to be looking at her. She looked shocked. She immediately ran inside and quickly entered the room, closing the door behind her. Shenjilia's body tensed up. The heat in his lower abdomen was uncontrollable. He scratched his head in frustration and walked into the bathroom with a long breath. As soon as he entered, he saw what Yi Qianqian was wearing today. A red top and simple black pants were placed next to the washstand. A pink semicircle was vaguely visible underneath. And the seductive little lace, Shenjilia's body heated up even more. He immediately looked away and turned on the shower. He poured cold water over his head and cursed in a low voice. Damn it, drunk women are really troublesome. Troublesome. Damn it, wasn't this the same as taking his life? This feeling is too unbearable. Shenjilia was about to go crazy. After a long time, he turned off the water and dried his body. He casually wrapped a bath towel around his waist and walked out while drying his hair. He rummaged through his luggage and found a pair of shorts to put on before sitting on the sofa and questioning life. Where should I sleep tonight? He slept in his room last night. Would it be weird if he slept on the sofa tonight? However, if he slept in the room, he would probably go crazy, or perhaps suffocation to death. It was also possible that he would take her when he couldn't control himself. No. Yi Qianqian hadn't fully accepted him yet. If he suddenly showed that kind of interest in her, she would definitely be unhappy. What if she was unhappy and wanted to break up? He had been careful for so long, he couldn't let it all go to waste at this time. But he really wanted to go in. Should he go in and take a look? If she slept, she would sleep there. If he's not asleep, pretend to be passing by. Shenjilia finally stood up and walked to the door of the room. He realized that the door was unlatched. She gently pushed the door open and walked in. The room was dimly lit with a warm yellow light. In such an atmosphere, it seemed a little ambiguous. Shenjilia closed the door and quietly walked over. Yi Qianqian didn't move at all. Shenjilia lifted the blanket and lay down. When he turned around to look at Yi Qianqian, he found that she was looking at him with her eyes open. Shenjilia was startled. Before he could react, she hugged him. Chapter 1702. Shenjilia was momentarily stunned. He blinked at Yi Qianqian in front of him. Under the dim light, Yi Qianqian's expression was unreadable. Before Shenjilia could see clearly, Yi Qianqian pounced on him and kissed him on the lips. Yi Qianqian had never taken the initiative before. She seemed to be mimicking the way Shenjilia usually kissed her, but she wasn't very familiar with it. She wrapped her arms around his neck and bit him repeatedly. Shenjilia closed his eyes tightly, and his expression was one of despair. He gently pushed her away and said, "What do you want?" Yi Qianqian froze. Her face flushed red. When Shenjilia saw that she wasn't moving, he said in a serious tone, "You're drunk. Don't mess around." When Yi Qianqian heard this, she was even more direct. She placed her hand on his naked waist. She leaned forward and sat on his body. Shenjilia couldn't hold himself back any longer. His throat tightened, and he wrapped an arm around her waist. His other hand gripped her chin, and Shenjilia's tongue invaded her mouth. His actions were urgent and forceful. Yi Qianqian's hands weren't very obedient. They slowly moved down from his waist, and her fingers tugged at his shorts. Shenjilia felt terrible. He pushed her away and asked, "Do you know what you're doing?" Yi Qianqian's face was as red as blood, but her gaze was firm. She looked at Shenjilia and enunciated each word clearly. "I raped you." Shenjilia thought he had misheard and couldn't help but laugh out loud. "What did you say?" Yi Qianqian didn't say another word. She tugged at his shorts and dragged them down, rubbing her body against him. Shenjilia couldn't take it anymore. His breathing quickened, and he lifted his leg. He turned the tables on her and pinned her under his body. "Don't you regret this?" he said. "No. Impossible." Before Yi Qianqian could finish her sentence, she was suppressed by his rapid movements. Yi Qianqian's body sank, and she was pushed to the center of the bed. Shenjilia grabbed a pillow and placed it under her head. Yi Qianqian yelped in surprise. But before she could do anything else, He grabbed her hands and lifted them high above her head. The passionate kiss was overwhelming. Yi Qianqian had never imagined that kissing could be so passionate. Shenjilia's lips traveled from her mouth to her neck. Yi Qianqian was ticklish, and she couldn't help but laugh out loud. She said, "Don't kiss me there. It tickles." Yi Qianqian sensed his movement, and her body trembled slightly. She instinctively pressed down on his hand. Shenjilia paused and looked up at her. Yi Qianqian seemed a little afraid, but she also felt an indescribable sense of anticipation. Shenjilia lowered his head and whispered, "Don't be afraid." Yi Qianqian wasn't afraid at first, but after hearing what he said, she became a little afraid. Why not forget it? Yi Qianqian shrank back and pushed him away with her palm. She said, Shenjilia could tell at a glance that the guy was trying to beat a retreat. Chapter 1703. That wouldn't do. He had to let this woman know that she had to pay the price for doing bad things. Shenjilia covered her mouth and pressed her hand against the top of her head. He murmured, "I told you not to regret it. There's no turning back now." Sob. Yi Qianqian looked at him pitifully and struggled. However, Shenjilia had no intention of letting her go. Yi Qianqian had goosebumps all over her body. She wriggled in resistance and said, "Shenjilia, you." Shenjilia ignored her and moved his hand to the back of her head. He touched the button and twisted it a few times, but there was no sign of it loosening. Shenjilia was a little annoyed and tugged, but it made Yi Qianqian scream. "You idiot! Is this how you untie it? Do you know how to untie it or not?" When he heard this, Shenjilia seemed to be angry and said, "Why wouldn't I know how to untie it? Don't move." Yi Qianqian had no choice but to be patient. She arched her body so that he could untie it. But after a while, Shenjilia still hadn't untied it. Yi Qianqian was furious. She raised her leg and kicked him. F*ck off. I'll do it myself. Shenjilia wasn't convinced. He pressed her down and grabbed her hand. "Don't move. I don't believe it." He picked Yi Qianqian up and held her in front of him. Shenjilia looked behind her and used both his hands to untie the button easily. "See, what's so difficult about it?" Shenjilia tugged her up. Before he had time to be smug, he saw the pink bra. His body heated up, and he looked down at Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian clutched her chest and shrank back with a red face. Shenjilia couldn't stand it anymore. He pounced on her and pulled down her panties. "You, turn off the light." Shenjilia pulled her down and hid her under the blanket. "There's no need to turn it off. Turn it off. It's too glaring." "No, it's comfortable to look at. Don't be shy. Didn't you want to rape me? Look at how cowardly you are. I'll probably rape you." Yi Qianqian was annoyed. She pushed him away and straddled him. She shouted, "Bullsh**t. I said that I'm stronger than you, so I'm stronger than you. What's with all this nonsense? Just lie down." Shenjilia had never been an obedient person. He pulled her leg and said helplessly and amusedly, "Sir, please do me a favor. When you want to do whatever you want, take off my pants first." Yi Qianqian's face burned even hotter. She lowered her head and hid under the blanket. She reached out and pulled his shorts down. Slowly. "Hurry up, what are you doing? Are you afraid now?" "I'm a coward." Yi Qianqian tugged at it angrily. The moment she did so, she could clearly see the thing that made her extremely embarrassed. Yi Qianqian was shocked and immediately shrank back. Shenjilia slowly inched backward. He could tell what she was up to at a glance. He immediately stood up and pulled her back, teasing her with a smile. "You're scared." I need to pee." "Let me go. I need to pee." Scared to the point of peeing. "Bah, you think you're so powerful, Chapter 1704. Don't be a coward. Shenjilia firmly suppressed her. "At the very least, you should fulfill your promise." Yi Qianqian struggled to no avail. She could only tremble and relax. But then she was gently rubbed, and the electric shock was immediately triggered all over her body. "You." Shenjilia didn't wait for her to finish. His fingers curled into the depths, and he clearly felt the resistance. Yi Qianqian was going crazy. The place that no one had touched before was clearly invaded. She subconsciously clamped her legs together and clenched her teeth. Shenjilia had expected it, But he felt strange that he could feel it so clearly. It was rare for a woman of her age to still be a virgin. What was even more strange was that this virgin kept saying that she wanted to rape him. Shenjilia's eyes darkened, and he began to move. It was very comfortable to hear such things. The first time was very painful, but after the pain, it would be very pleasurable. But Yi Qianqian didn't feel that it was very painful, but it was not very comfortable. Yi Qianqian resisted and pushed him away. She turned her head away and said, "Dirty." Shenjilia didn't move away. He pressed his body against hers and kissed her inch by inch. Yi Qianqian's breathing became more and more rapid, and her throat made an unbearable sound. After an unknown amount of time, Shenjilia's hand finally moved away. But before Yi Qianqian could breathe a sigh of relief, she felt a wave of pain. It was followed by an indescribable tearing pain. The feeling came so suddenly that Yi Qianqian screamed and clung to his back tightly. Shenjilia's body was already covered in sweat. He looked at her and whispered, "Don't be nervous. Relax." Yi Qianqian felt like she was about to faint from the pain. She clutched his arm tightly and shouted, "F***ck, Shenjilia." Shenjilia also knew that it would hurt, and he was thinking about whether or not to withdraw. But when he heard her scolding, he gave up on the idea. When she felt him move slightly, Yi Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. But then she felt an oppressive pain. Her body felt like it was being bitten by 10,000 ants. It was uncomfortable everywhere. F***ck off, Shenjilia, you big pervert. You F***king sob, get out. It hurt so much. She grabbed his arm and said, "Let's just say that you raped me. Get out of here. I won't rape you anymore. This is the first time in my life that I've experienced the pain of my lungs being torn apart." Woo 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 woo. Shenjilia was amused. His body trembled slightly, and he almost lost control. He immediately perked up. No, there's no room for discussion. He kissed Yi Qianqian's lips and slowly began to move. As Shenjilia moved, Yi Qianqian resisted and cried. She cried so hard that Shenjilia didn't dare move. "Hey, don't act like I'm really forcing myself on you. You're putting a lot of pressure on me." Yi Qianqian immediately stopped crying. Shenjilia grabbed a pillow and placed it under her waist before he began to suppress her sobs. It wasn't a long time, but it was torturous enough for Yi Qianqian. When they stopped, Yi Qianqian clenched her fists and contemplated life with her back to Shenjilia. Shenjilia leaned over and noticed that she was obviously unhappy. He scratched his head in frustration. She had cried so miserably just now, and he didn't dare to enjoy himself to his heart's content. He was still suppressing a ball of fire. He felt wronged. Yi Qianqian. Chapter 1705. Shenjilia couldn't help kissing her neck. He placed his hands by her side and asked in a husky voice, "Does it feel good?" Yi Qianqian was already a little embarrassed. When he asked her that question, she felt even more embarrassed. She glared at him, but he slammed into her again. Yi Qianqian's eyes welled up with tears. When she heard her embarrassed voice, she gritted her teeth. Shenjilia seemed to be addicted to it. He let out a low, husky breath. It sounded like he was moaning and deliberately seducing her. What was worse was that Yi Qianqian felt that he was extremely sexy when he did that. He was crazy. Yi Qianqian had tasted the sweetness and was no longer so resistant. This continued for a very, very long time. Yi Qianqian couldn't take it anymore and pushed him away. Shenjilia continued for a while longer before he stopped. Tired. So tired. It was rare for Yi Qianqian to wake up early and run 2 laps. She had never been so tired before. Her eyelids were fighting, and her body felt like it was falling apart. It was extremely uncomfortable. The most uncomfortable thing was that when she finally rested, she realized that the bedsheets were wet. Yi Qianqian turned over and lay on top of him. She was too lazy to move and asked, "What time is it?" Shenjilia looked around and finally moved to the bedside table to pick up a phone. He looked at it and was silent for a moment before he said, "Let's sleep." "What time is it?" "Well, it's almost 12. Yi Qianqian looked up suddenly. She was stunned at first, then she exclaimed in disbelief, "It was only 8 when you came in." "Well, I think so. D*mnu. Yi Qianqian suddenly felt wronged. Uf asterisk, ked me for more than 3 hours. Are you still human? Sob, sob, sob. My bones are falling apart. Shinjulia laughed when he heard that. Can't you have some self-awareness as a woman? What are you saying? How am I not a woman? If you have the guts, go sleep with a man. Shinjulia laughed even louder. He hugged her and said, go take a shower. Oh, I don't want to move. I'm tired. Yi Qianqian lay on top of him and looked at him pitifully. Shinjulia sat up and carried her in his arms. Let me help you, he said. Yi Qianqian immediately got up and shook her head. No, I'll go by myself. What are you afraid of? Which part of your body haven't I seen before? Yi Qianqian reached out and pinched his waist. So what if I've seen it? I'm not going to wash it for you. It didn't hurt. But Shinjulia immediately wailed and said, ouch! You're trying to murder your husband. Scram. I'm going to take a bath. Yi Qianqian pulled her pajamas over to cover her body. She glanced at the wet bedsheets. There were a few spots of blood on them, and they were mottled and messy. The bed is dirty. Go take a shower. I'll call someone to change the sheets. I don't think so. Wouldn't they know what we did? That's not good. But he obviously did something. If we don't change it, are we supposed to keep it for the night? Ugh, it should be quite uncomfortable to fall asleep. Yi Qianqian thought for a moment before nodding her head. Hurry up then. I'll go to bed after I take a shower. I'm hungry, are you? It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned it. Once he did, Yi Qianqian really did feel a little hungry. Yeah, go ahead and call someone. Shinjulia knew her taste the best, so she didn't worry about it. She pulled her clothes over and put them on. As she put them on, Yi Qianqian turned her head to warn him. Don't peek at me. Shinjulia was confused. Which part of your body haven't I seen before? Why can't I see when you're wearing clothes? Yi Qianqian's face heated up. She glared at him and said, You're not allowed to look. Turn around. Shinjulia was defeated by her. He stretched out his hands with an expression of defeat on his face and turned his head away. Yi Qianqian quickly put on her shirt and pants before running out. Only when he got to the bathroom did he realize that he was in a mess. Hickeys. Deep and shallow marks covered her chest and neck. Moreover, it hurt. Chapter 1706. Yi Qianqian resisted the urge to sit down. She turned on the hot water and quickly showered. Halfway through the shower, she heard the doorbell ring. It must be room service. Yi Qianqian stayed in the bathroom for about 10 minutes before she slowly walked out. The bedsheets had been changed, and it looked very clean and tidy. Shinjulia, on the other hand, was sitting on the bed. He was dressed in simple, typical pajamas. Wow, you're dressed so conservatively. Yi Qianqian took her hair down and teased him. Of course. An auntie came to change the bedsheets just now. Do I have to let her have a look? Shinjulia lifted the blanket and patted the spot beside him. Come here. Yi Qianqian didn't have much energy left. She looked at his invitation and was a little wary. What do you want? Shinjulia smiled helplessly. What can I do? I'm tired after such a long time. Come here. Yi Qianqian walked over suspiciously. Her legs were already sore and weak. Once she sat down, her whole body felt comfortable. She lay down comfortably. Yi Qianqian closed her eyes and fell asleep. Shinjulia also lay down and covered her with the blanket. Then, he crossed his legs and clamped her down. When we go back, don't go back to Kingstown. Come with me to the capital. Yi Qianqian's drowsiness suddenly disappeared. She opened her eyes and looked at Shinjulia. What the hell? So fast. How long do you want to wait? We're already like this. Don't you want to marry me? Shinjulia stared at Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian was a little confused. Did they have to get married after sleeping together? Although it was her first time, Yi Qianqian really didn't think that she had to leave her first time to her husband. The reason she had kept it before was purely because she hadn't met the right person she liked. Now, although Shinjulia was not bad, was it too sudden and too fast to ask to meet his family the moment they were in bed? Yi Qianqian was not mentally prepared at all. She looked at Shinjulia and said after a long while, Do you bring every girl you sleep with home to meet your parents? Shinjulia clamped her legs tightly. Yi Qianqian felt a little pain. She frowned and said, It hurts. What are you doing? Who am I in your eyes? Do you think I'm the kind of person who would mess around outside? Shinjilia's voice was devoid of any trace of amusement. Yi Qianqian was even more confused. She retorted, Aren't you? Yi Qianqian. Shinjilia gritted his teeth. He was so angry that he raised his fist. But he didn't know what to say. After a long time he sighed heavily and said, Do I look like a playboy? Yi Qianqian hadn't expected him to suddenly ask such a question. She thought about it seriously for a moment and said, I don't think you're a playboy. I just feel that you're not very loyal. Your love life should be very rich. After all Shinjilia felt like he was about to vomit blood. He suddenly flipped over and pinned Yi Qianqian beneath him. Unlike the gentleness from before, he exerted all his strength on her, as if he wanted to crush her to death. Yi Qianqian felt a little uncomfortable. She tried to push him away, but he wouldn't budge. What are you doing? Do you think you're that light? I'll be crushed to death by you later. Crush you to death? How dare you defile me? Chapter 1707. Shinjilia's revenge had failed. When he saw how heartless Yi Qianqian was, he felt a surge of anger in his chest. It was so heavy that he couldn't get up or down. It was so uncomfortable. Shinjilia flipped over and lay with his back facing Yi Qianqian. He closed his eyes and stopped talking. Yi Qianqian was baffled. After she loosened her muscles and bones, she looked at Shinjilia. Shinjilia's back was facing her. His body was curled up, and his arms were crossed. He looked angry. What the hell? She wasn't even angry. Why was he angry? Staring at his back, Yi Qianqian coughed softly and said, What's wrong with you? Shinjilia shrank to the side and didn't make a sound. But the signs of resistance to anger were even more obvious. Yi Qianqian didn't understand. She leaned over and reached out to grab his arm. Shinjilia didn't move. Yi Qianqian gathered her courage and leaned over again. She whispered, Hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you angry? Shinjilia still didn't make a sound. Yi Qianqian put her leg on his body and shouted, Shinjilia. Shinurga, darling. Shinjilia shivered and immediately shook her leg off. Yi Qianqian saw that and immediately leaned over again. Her chest was pressed against his back, and her whole body was wrapped around him like an octopus. My dear little baby. Shinjilia was even more shocked. He struggled for a moment and said in a low voice, Get away. Yi Qianqian was disgusted, but at least the guy reacted. Yi Qianqian immediately crawled to his side and leaned her head toward his cheek to kiss him. Shinjilia didn't react when she kissed him. His eyes were still closed, and his arms were wrapped even tighter. His lips were tightly pursed, and he didn't say a word. Yi Qianqian flipped over from behind him and rubbed against him. What's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. You're not a hero if you're angry. You're not a man. Shinjilia opened his eyes and looked at Yi Qianqian. He reached out and hugged her. Whether I'm a man or not, I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Yi Qianqian's face turned red from his teasing. She struggled for a moment and said, I can't kill you, you pervert. You're the pervert. Shinjilia gritted his teeth and tightened his grip on her waist. She resisted and pushed him away. She shouted, Shinjilia, are you crazy? Are you trying to strangle me to death? Humph. Shinjilia let go of her and turned his head to sleep with his back facing her. Yi Qianqian felt that he was being unreasonable, and her anger flared. She turned around and ignored him. A few minutes later the doorbell rang. It was probably because of the food. Yi Qianqian's stomach was growling, but she wasn't wearing any underwear, so it wasn't appropriate for her to open the door. He nudged the man behind him with his butt. Open the door. Unexpectedly, Shinjilia did not move or make a sound. It was as if he had fallen asleep. Yi Qianqian's anger surged. She flung the blanket aside forcefully, got out of bed, and stomped out of the room. However, before she could reach the doorknob, she was pulled back by a large hand. Shinjilia had a sleepy look on his face. His red lips were tightly pursed, and he walked out with a displeased look on his face. Yi Qianqian was furious and shouted, Shinjilia, are you crazy? Shinjilia ignored her and went to open the door. Chapter 1708. Shinjilia took the food and signed his name before he slowly walked in and placed the food on the table. He ordered a simple pizza and 2 glasses of fruit juice, all of which Yi Qianqian liked. Shenjilia paused as he looked at the food. He thought about what Yi Qianqian had just said. I don't think you're a playboy, but I think you're not very faithful. Your love life should be very rich. After all, what was he doing? After all, he was already so old. So he couldn't take her home, couldn't let her see his parents? A normal woman would be willing to give her first time to this man. Wasn't it because she was willing to be with this man? If she was willing, why wouldn't she want to go back to the capital with him to see his parents? Shenjilia felt a fire burning in his stomach. At the same time, he felt a little sad. From Yi Qianqian's attitude just now and her attitude when he went to Yin Town. She probably never thought of marrying him. Shenjilia sat on the sofa and suddenly felt a little defeated. What was wrong with him? Was he not handsome enough, or was he not good enough? That couldn't be right. If he was in the capital, there would be a lot of women willing to marry him just by mentioning his name. Why wouldn't Yi Qianqian be willing? There was no reason for her not to be willing. Shenjilia couldn't help but think that from the beginning, he had been the one taking the initiative and maintaining the relationship. Other than this time, Yi Qianqian had only been passively accepting it. His mind was a mess. As he sat there, his mind was filled with thoughts that were driving him crazy. What did Yi Qianqian mean? After a long time, Shenjilia stood up and walked to the door of the room. When he opened the door, he found that it was locked from the inside. He knocked twice and asked, "Are you hungry? Come out and eat." Yi Qianqian was covered in the blanket and hugged it angrily. When she heard that, her stomach grumbled twice. Damn it! Why did she have to make life difficult for herself? Shenjilia was sick, but she wasn't. She lifted the blanket and got out of bed. Yi Qianqian opened the door. Shenjilia stood at the door. When he saw her angry face, he finally felt better. At least he wasn't the only one who was upset. Yi Qianqian walked out barefoot. When she saw the pizza, her stomach grumbled even more happily. She went to the bathroom to wash her hands. Then, she opened a bottle of juice and drank it. Shenjilia looked at it and scratched his head. He walked over and sat down beside her. Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian ignored him and grabbed a pair of gloves. She grabbed a pizza and ate happily. It was just a little hot, and Yi Qianqian couldn't quite grasp it through her gloves, so she put it down again. Do you have some misunderstanding about me? What misunderstanding? It's nothing. Yi Qianqian picked it up again and put it in her mouth. It's a little hot. Have you washed your hands? Shenjilia replied. No, I think you might have misunderstood something. I did have a few girlfriends in the past, but they were just for fun. The longest lasted no more than 3 months. Later, I fell in love with Lily because I admired her. But that kind of admiration wasn't as strong as what we are now. Yi Qianqian looked at him as she ate. Shenjilia was also hungry. His appetite had been whetted by the sight of her enjoying herself. He leaned over and sat down. He continued, You said that I have a lot of experience in relationships, but in fact, I'm not that experienced. You might not believe it, but before I met you, all those women were just passable. Yi Qianqian pouted and stuffed the last bite into her mouth. I don't believe you. Shenjilia was speechless. Chapter 1709. I'm serious. Shenjilia was afraid that she wouldn't believe him, so he stared at her and said seriously. Yi Qianqian grabbed another slice of pizza and stuffed it into his mouth. I'm being serious, she said. Shenjilia was speechless. He took a bite of the pizza in his mouth and ate it, as if it tasted like wax. The atmosphere was tense. Neither Shenjilia nor Yi Qianqian spoke first. After dinner, they washed up and went back to their rooms to sleep. Yi Qianqian was in a terrible mood, and so was Shenjilia. He tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. He turned around and held her in his arms as he asked, Yi Qianqian, how exactly do you feel about me? Yi Qianqian wasn't asleep either. When she felt the warmth of his body behind her, her heart fluttered. But when he heard these words, he felt upset in his heart. He was her first man. How could she feel about him? If she didn't have feelings for him, would she have slept with him? But when he heard these words, he felt terrible. Twisting his arm, he said, I should be the one asking you. Then ask me, and I'll answer you. Yi Qianqian had her back to him. She didn't respond or speak. Shinjilia was silent for a long time before he said, You pounced on me in the middle of the night, and said that you wanted to rape me. Now that your evil plan has succeeded, you can't just shirk responsibility, can you? Yi Qianqian nearly choked on her saliva. She exploded in anger and retorted, Bullsh*t. Have you ever seen a rapist take responsibility for his victim? F*ck. You really don't intend to take responsibility? I don't care. Anyway, like you said, I'm yours from now on. Shinjilia held her waist tightly. You've already defiled me. I won't be able to get married in the future. If you don't want me anymore, I'll die. Yi Qianqian was speechless. Shinjilia leaned over and stroked her slightly fleshy belly with one hand. He squeezed it. Yi Qianqian was ticklish. She shivered slightly. Go away. If you want me to leave, I can, but I want my status, Shinjilia said pitifully as he leaned against her back. Status, Yi Qianqian. Status? Yi Qianqian looked disgusted. What's a status? Can I eat it? Yes, with a title you can work with a certificate. It will be much more convenient. Yi Qianqian felt that it was too sudden. She didn't reject him, but she never thought they would get married right after having sex. Shinjilia, she said. Right now he liked her, especially when he had just taken her virginity. It was normal for him to be so excited. Jilia, Jilia said. Shinjilia, Tixing Shun, At. Especially since Shinjilia was from the capital. Shen Tishin Shun, T, Shen At. Jilia T, Shen, 2, At. God. T. Ah, so you look at age. Actually, more importantly, I want to bring you home so that my parents and grandma can take a look at you. After we return, let's go straight to the capital, okay? Yi Qianqian found it hard to accept. Why are you in such a hurry? I think it's too soon. Shinjilia could tell that she didn't want to. After a moment of silence, Shinjilia hugged her and said, Let's sleep. Chapter 17:10. It was quiet all night. When Yi Qianqian woke up, Shinjilia was no longer in bed. It was empty. Yi Qianqian felt that something was wrong. Is this guy still in a bad mood? Yi Qianqian got up and walked out of the door. She didn't see Shinjilia on the sofa. The bathroom was empty. Yi Qianqian suddenly felt a little uneasy. She just didn't want to go home with him to see his parents. How could this guy go missing? She looked around and called out, Shinjilia. However, there was still no answer. Yi Qianqian ran back to her room and found her cell phone. She immediately called Shinjilia. As soon as the call went through, Shinjilia picked up the phone. Hello. The voice sounded a little energetic. There was a little noise on the side. Yi Qianqian was silent for a moment when she heard the voice. Then she asked, Where are you? I'm buying breakfast outside. This shop has a very good reputation. I'm still in line. Wait for me. I'll be back soon. Yi Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. Okay. Bye. After hanging up, Yi Qianqian felt her heart tighten. She was a little afraid that he would leave her alone. She looked at the time on her cell phone. It was 8:30 in the morning. It was getting late. But that guy had tossed and turned for half a day last night. He didn't fall asleep until at least 3 or 4 o'clock. Would his body be able to take it if he woke up so early? Yi Qianqian felt a little guilty. After a long time she sighed, put down her cell phone to charge, and went to wash up. It was past 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the capital. Luo Ran had just fallen asleep from his afternoon nap when he was awakened by Shinjilia's WeChat message. Shinjilia had never looked for him once in 8 lifetimes. Whenever he did, it was either a meal or a drink. This was the first time. Just when Luo Ran thought the sky was falling, he realized that Shinjilia wanted him to find a way to get his girlfriend. Excuse me, when did this guy have a girlfriend? In the face of Luo Ran's question, Shinjilia had no intention of explaining at all. He poured out all his troubles and what had happened. After understanding what had happened between them, Luo Ran disdainfully said, Are you stupid? Even if I know what you said is true, who would believe you? Your girlfriend might even think that you said the same thing to all of your girlfriends. Shinjilia felt as if he had been shot in the heart. Ever since last night, he had felt that something was amiss. Then what should we do? I've already said it. Is there any way to save it? Luo Ran's interest was piqued when he heard that. Are you serious? Look at how beautiful this girl is. She's already taken care of you. Look at you. Do you still want to marry her? Of course. If I don't marry her, why would I waste so much effort? Don't talk too much. Just tell me what to do. That's not easy. Most girls like to listen to sweet talk. You just need to be a little more sweet. Pooh. Shinjilia spat angrily. It'd be great if this woman was just like any other girl. Did you know? Last night, she said she wanted to rape me. In the end, I found out she was a virgin. Shameless. You talk as if you're not a virgin. You still have the cheek to talk about others? Luo Ran had a look of disdain on his face. She doesn't want to marry you because she thinks that you're not good at it, right? Shut up. She's not that kind of person. Cave-in hard to write. Chapter 17:11. Luo Ran immediately understood and said with a smile. So that's how it is. Shinjilia didn't have many friends, but Luo Ran was one of them. The two of them had known each other since college, and their friendship could be said to be quite good. Luo Ran liked to hang out in bars, and Shinjilia was often taken around by him. The few girlfriends he had met before were all in bars, but later he gradually found that the girls in bars were not reliable. So Shinjilia gave up the idea of being single in bars. Unfortunately, after his girlfriends parted on good terms with him, they turned around and got together with Luo Ran. Especially after they told Luo Ran that Shinjilia didn't have any improper thoughts about them. Luo Ran had been laughing at them until now. Hearing Luo Ran's laughter, Shinjilia had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Luo Ran immediately said, It's also your first time, and it's also her first time. You have lived for most of your life, but you have never tasted a woman. You can't control yourself, and you annoy her. That's why she is so resistant to you. Shinjilia was silent for a moment. Was that really the reason? Thinking of her reaction last night, Shinjilia actually felt that it was right. Luo Ran seemed to be quite experienced in this regard. His words seemed to solve all his doubts. Shinjilia was waiting in line to buy breakfast, and the people in front of him were getting fewer and fewer. Luo Ran heard that he didn't speak, so he said again, You said that you slept with her last night, and then you turned around and asked her to see your parents. A normal girl would probably think that you can't find a wife and are afraid that she will run away. So you are in a hurry to find a wife. If I were that girl, I'm afraid I would break up with you in bed. Your girl has a good temper. Bah, who's like you? Women change like they change clothes. I'm her first boyfriend. That's even more normal. Women who have never been in love have endless yearning for that kind of thing. Luo Ran was so sleepy that he yawned. He leaned back in the lounge and said, They want to be handsome, rich, and nice to themselves. They want to live like a princess. As for men, aren't they just Prince Charming and Black Knight? A loser like you is basically out of the scope of those girls' sexual fantasies. Shinjilia was speechless. Besides, you said that this girl is your ex-sister-in-law's sister, so she must have a certain understanding of your family. Your grandmother treated your ex-sister-in-law so badly, so it's normal that she doesn't dare to marry you. Shinjilia was speechless. Alright, you think about it yourself. I don't want to get married anyway. I can probably guess what this girl is thinking. Don't push her too hard. Even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered, and this girl is still a virgin. Even if you want to, you have to hold it in. Don't give her a psychological shadow. Otherwise, you'll lose more than you gain. Shinjilia was displeased. You seem to know a lot about me. Of course. Who do you think you are? What kind of women have I not seen before? I can conjure up a basket of them for you. I'm very familiar with this little trick. Alright, I'm hanging up. Grandpa, I'm going to sleep. Goodbye. After Luo Ran hung up the phone, Shinjilia felt even more uncomfortable. This guy was beating around the bush with his words. Was he saying that his EQ was low? At that moment, it was Shinjilia's turn. Chapter 17:12. By the time he returned with breakfast, Yi Qianqian had already changed and was sitting on the sofa playing games. When she saw him come back, she looked at the time. It was almost 9 o'clock. Yi Qianqian went up to take the breakfast and opened the packaging. Why are you up so early? This shop is very popular. I had to go and queue up. Shen Jilia went to wash his hands and took out a wet towel. Let's go to the museum today, and then to the art gallery to cultivate our spirit. Yi Qianqian suddenly felt bored. Is there any other place? Didn't you come up with a guide before you came? What else is there to play? Yi Qianqian's eyes suddenly lit up. Let's go to the art gallery. Let's play. Okay. Shinjilia took her hand and wiped it for her. Let's eat first. We'll play later. Yi Qianqian's hand was warm from his wiping. She recalled the panic that had flashed through her heart when she couldn't find him. Yi Qianqian felt that something was wrong with her. She seemed to care about this man too much. It was said that in a relationship, the person who fell in love first was the loser. She might have already lost, starting from yesterday when she decided to give herself to him. Shinjilia saw that she was in a daze and didn't say anything. He took out the breakfast and said, "Eat while it's hot." It was the weekend, so there were many people in the art gallery. Not only were there Italians, but there were also many people with the same yellow skin and black eyes walking around. They were either speaking Korean or Japanese, or some other language that they couldn't recognize. Yi Qianqian's body was still sore, and she couldn't walk very well. Shinjilia saw it, and felt that what Luo Ran had said couldn't be more right. She definitely wasn't feeling well, but she didn't ruin their fun. Apart from doing it the night before, Yi Qianqian hadn't complained at all. Where else could he find a girl like her? Shinjilia followed behind her, and the self-blame in his heart increased. Yi Qianqian didn't notice Shinjilia's strange behavior. She pulled him excitedly and said, "Let's go. There's something fun there." It was an art gallery that was specially provided for people to play. In addition to pottery, there were rooms for sketches, oil paintings, flower arrangements, and handicrafts. Yi Qianqian had wanted to visit such a place for a long time, but she couldn't find the time when she was in Kingstown. Instead, she realized her dream overseas. Yi Qianqian stood in line and bought a ticket to enter. She looked down the corridor and saw the art studio. Holding Shinjilia's hand, Yi Qianqian could clearly see through the glass door that there was a beautiful woman inside. The beauty had blonde hair and blue eyes. She was very beautiful. Her long hair was tied into a braid and hung in front of her. The pink gauze dress she wore covered half of her body and just happened to cover the vital parts of her body. His snow-white skin was even more stunning under the pink fabric. It was so beautiful that Yi Qianqian couldn't tear her eyes away. She immediately reacted and turned to look at Shinjilia. When she realized that he was also looking, she quickly covered his eyes and said, "You're not allowed to look." Shinjilia blinked his eyes in exasperation and pride. "She's a model. What are you thinking? Girls can sacrifice themselves for art, but you can't look at it. You're not going in." Chapter 17:13. "I'll eat your ass. Aren't you childish?" Yi Qianqian pushed him away and turned around. "Let's go. The clay classroom is over there." Yi Qianqian walked awkwardly. Shinjilia quickly caught up with her and held her arm. "Let's go together." Yi Qianqian glared at him and began to look around. The purpose of her visit was very clear: the clay classroom. When they entered, they found many girls and men accompanying their partners. Yi Qianqian and Shinjilia swiped their tickets and walked in. They walked to a table that no one had used before. The tables were separated from each other by a partition, so neither of them could see what she was doing. It was Yi Qianqian's first time playing with such a thing. She put on an apron and sat down. She looked at the simple tutorial posted on the partition and quickly got the hang of it. Shinjilia had never played with it before either. The two of them squeezed the clay into a ball. Their hands were covered with grayish-white clay. What's next? Yi Qianqian was a little confused. How do I start the clay machine? Let me study it. Shinjilia looked around and pressed the switch. Then the clay machine began to turn slowly. Yi Qianqian was a little excited when they finally got to the main topic. She placed her hands on the clay and looked at the marks left by her fingers. The shape of the clay began to slowly change. The joy she felt was indescribable. The clay grew and was pressed into a short and fat person. Yi Qianqian was playing with it excitedly. Shen Jiliya watched her play. Yi Qianqian glanced at him and said, "Go play at the table next to you. This thing is fun." "No." Shen Jiliya moved forward and pressed his tall body against her back. "Let's play together." Yi Qianqian's body tensed slightly. With him pressing against her, the heat immediately rose. Yi Qianqian looked around and felt a little embarrassed. She said, "Don't do this. It's not good if others see us." "Huh." Shen Jiliya lowered his head. His warm breath blew on her neck. "We're not doing anything. Why are you afraid of others seeing us?" As he spoke, he reached out and gently placed his hand on Yi Qianqian's. Both of their hands were dirty and stuck with grayish-white clay. Yi Qianqian looked at the clay that was gradually being pressed down and suddenly remembered a scene from a movie she had watched before. Shen Jiliya's body pressed closer and closer to her as he whispered, "Is this your first time playing this?" It was rare for Shen Jiliya to speak in such a gentle voice. In an instant, Shen Jiliya's temperament seemed different. Was he deliberately flirting with her? Yi Qianqian saw through him in an instant, but she couldn't believe that Shen Jiliya had seduced her. Yi Qianqian felt even more uncomfortable when she heard his question from behind her. She nudged him gently and said, "Get away from me. You're making me feel so hot." Shen Jiliya moved away slightly. He looked at the slowly rotating ceramic machine and said, "Come, I'll teach you." "You can?" "I used to accompany my mom to play a few times. I've probably seen how other people play." Shen Jiliya used his finger to gently push it to the center, and a dent slowly appeared in the clay. Yi Qianqian looked over and poked it with her finger. She chuckled and said, "This is easy. I heard that the difficult part lies in the heat control and timing. Otherwise, it will crack easily. Let's try." Shen Jiliya couldn't help but wrap his arms around her. Especially when he thought about the taste of last night. He felt uncomfortable all over. Yi Qianqian immediately sensed that something was wrong as the heat surged. Chapter 17:14. Behind her, Shen Jiliya was pressing himself firmly against her. He leaned close to her ear and watched the gradually changing clay in front of him. Yi Qianqian glanced sideways. Shen Jiliya was leaning forward with a very serious expression on his face. It was as if he wasn't the one pressing a hot bulge against her at that very moment. Yi Qianqian's face instantly turned red. After struggling for a moment, she growled, "Get lost, you pervert." "Be quiet." Shen Jiliya's gaze was still on the clay in front of him. "It's going to spoil soon. You let go." Yi Qianqian glared at him. "To think that I just thought of a classic scene from Ghost. What a waste of such a romantic plot. Get out of my way," Yi Qianqian said. Shen Jiliya felt even more uncomfortable. He pressed her against him and said, "Don't. There are people around. If they see us, it'll be even more embarrassing. Just for a moment." "You. What's the classic scene in Ghost?" Yi Qianqian didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt as if everyone around them was looking in her direction. She looked around, but it didn't seem to be there. At this point, Yi Qianqian had no choice but to turn her head back with a red face. She looked at the clay and twisted it uncomfortably. She said, "Isn't it just a scene where we play with clay? The male lead and the female lead are in love, but just as they are about to get married, the male lead is killed. The female lead is heartbroken. At that moment, the male lead's good friend takes advantage of the situation, but his motive is not pure. Later, it is discovered that the male lead's death was planned by the good friend. The good friend pursues the female lead? Yes, but he has a motive. Then why is the clay scene a classic? Because they love each other very much. Even if it's just quietly kneading clay together, there is a resonance in their souls. That kind of spiritual connection is pure and supreme. Oh, it's a very romantic plot. It's not as wretched as you." Yi Qianqian said this in a low voice. "Move away. I'm uncomfortable." Shen Jiliya didn't budge. He asked in a low voice, "Which country is this movie from?" "America. Haven't you seen such a classic movie?" "Yes, but I'm not interested in romance movies." Shen Jiliya tightened his grip on her hand. Very quickly, her hand crumbled into a ball. Do you know why this scene in the movie is such a classic? Because it was placed in a classic movie. It became a classic, Yi Qianqian said matter-of-factly. Shenjilia chuckled. Yes, but I think there's another explanation. What? In the United States, clay is called clay, but clay has another meaning. Yi Qianqian's English wasn't very good, but she still knew what the word meant. Blinking his eyes, he asked, body? Yes. Shenjilia covered her hands with both of his, and slowly pushed the clay away. Round by round, he asked, do they play with clay like this too? Yi Qianqian suddenly felt a little evil. As she looked at the clay, she couldn't help but associate it with the word flesh. In the movie, they're playing with clay. This is very straightforward and bold. It's ambiguous and dirty. Yi Qianqian's face burned even hotter. So, you think I'm just playing with clay now? Chapter 17:15. Don't accuse me wrongly. Isn't that what the movie is trying to express? Shenjilia's lips curled up in a smile. He seemed to have gotten what he wanted. As she spoke, Yi Qianqian could clearly feel the hardness behind her back, not diminishing in the slightest. Instead, it made her feel even more embarrassed. Shenjilia placed his hands on top of hers. His fingers pressed against the gaps between her fingers, as he wantonly played with the clay that was constantly spinning on the ceramic machine. Its shape was constantly changing, and it looked terrible. But at the same time, Yi Qianqian felt that such a scene had an indescribable desire. Bastard. You've been brainwashed. Yi Qianqian moved a little. Let go. Move away. I'm quite curious. Shenjilia suddenly changed the topic. In the movie you watched, what did they do after they finished playing with clay? What did he do? Yi Qianqian knew that after they teased each other they kissed. Two pairs of muddy hands intertwined with each other as they kissed. The scene was beautiful and romantic. Then, the screen went black. Yi Qianqian used to think that this kind of love was wonderful. But when it came to herself, she couldn't feel it anymore. Yi Qianqian's face heated up at the thought that they might have done something indescribable after that. She nudged Shenjilia and said, it's none of your business. If you want to know, go and see for yourself. Right now, I feel terrible. Shenjilia finally stepped aside. His body was so tense that it was uncomfortable. I'm going to the bathroom. Yi Qianqian was speechless. What was he going there for? Could it be so disgusting? When Shenjilia saw the look of disgust on Yi Qianqian's face, he immediately knew what she was thinking. He felt wronged and said, the bathroom is just behind. I'll be out soon. Oh. Yi Qianqian still had a look of disdain on her face as she continued to play with the clay. After a few minutes, Shenjilia walked out. There were beads of water on her face, and her cheeks were red. Yi Qianqian glanced at it and replied, I'll do it myself. You should get some rest. What do you want to do? I want to make it into a bowl. Shenjilia burst out laughing. Don't most people make cups? How did you make it into a basin? And it's so small, how are you going to make a basin? There are many different types of pots, Yi Qianqian said, concentrating on her work. She thinned the walls of the pot and pushed it higher. Most people make cups, but I'm different. Cups are a tragedy. I want to make a comedy. Washing utensils. Shenjilia looked at it carefully. After a moment's thought, he turned to leave. Wait a moment. Yi Qianqian craned her neck to look, but Shenjilia was nowhere to be seen. After a while, Shenjilia reappeared with a basin in his hand. It was filled with a sizable amount of clay. Yi Qianqian's eyes lit up. How big do you want to make the basin? It should at least be a wash basin. With that bit of dirt you have, it's not even enough to drink soup. Shenjilia added the clay he had just prepared into the pot, and began to serve it earnestly. Both of them were just here to play, and were not professionals at all. After much difficulty, they finally made something that looked like a wash basin. Full of anticipation, they took the wash basin to burn. However, extreme joy turned to sorrow. Because the basin was too big, it couldn't fit into the oven. When Yi Qianqian heard this, her face was filled with disappointment. She looked at Shenjilia. Chapter 17:16. Yi Qianqian had no choice but to take it back and rework it. She suddenly had an idea. He poured the water into the basin and divided it into 2 pieces. Come and help. Yi Qianqian called out to Xinjilia. Yi Qianqian was usually carefree, but when she was serious, she was very focused. She stared at the clay in front of her. As she kneaded and kneaded, Yi Qianqian put the pieces together and quickly created a prototype. Judging from the shape, it looked like a human. Yi Qianqian deliberately flattened a small piece of soil and stuck it to her hair. It was short and looked like a man's. Then, she took Xinjilia's and made a woman with long hair. She even made a cute dress. These 2 things were much smaller than the basin from before. When they were taken to be fired again, the supervisor took a second look at them and said, "This one might take a little longer to burn. It's solid inside." Both of them nodded. Yi Qianqian was filled with anticipation. Looking at the time, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yi Qianqian's stomach was growling with hunger. She had no choice but to leave the art gallery to find a place to eat. However, Yi Qianqian really didn't feel like eating spaghetti anymore. Ever since she came here, almost every meal had been spaghetti. Although the taste was not bad, it was not the taste of his motherland, so he was not used to it. After searching around with Xinjilia, they finally found a Japanese restaurant. The restaurant was opened by Japanese people. As soon as they entered, they could feel the strong Japanese atmosphere. The waiters inside were also yellow-skinned and looked like they were Japanese. They wore kimonos and smiled warmly at them. "Are you 2 Japanese?" the girl asked in English. Xinjilia shook his head. "He's from Huaxia." The waiter immediately understood. He handed over the menu and took out a tablet. Yi Qianqian ordered some of her favorite dishes. When she looked up, she saw a woman holding a child's hand as she walked past. The woman's belly was very big. She looked like she was a few months pregnant. She was on the phone. She was from China. "What about the child? I can't take care of him alone." Yi Qianqian couldn't hear anything else, but she looked at her belly. If she was alone, she wouldn't be able to take care of a child. Subconsciously, Yi Qianqian thought back to last night. It seemed like they didn't take any precautions. The hotel didn't even have condoms, let alone birth control pills. She glanced at Xinjilia, who was looking at the menu. It was obvious that he hadn't noticed the woman who had just passed by. Yi Qianqian stood up and said, "I'm going to the bathroom." "Okay," Xinjilia replied and continued to order. He didn't notice that Yi Qianqian walked out of the private room. He asked the girl at the front desk, "Excuse me, where can I buy medicine?" "Medicine? Are you not feeling well?" "We have cold medicine here. And we also have a special lounge for you." "No, I have a situation and need to find a pharmacy." Are you on your period? We can also provide you with things you need urgently." Yi Qianqian was a little embarrassed. This Japanese restaurant service was too good. She couldn't possibly tell them that she hadn't used any protection last night and was going to the pharmacy to buy birth control pills now. Could she? She hesitated for a moment and shook her head in embarrassment. She waved her hand and said, "Forget it." Under the astonished gaze of the waiter, Yi Qianqian returned to the private room dejectedly. Xinjilia had finished ordering. Yi Qianqian had just sat down when she heard a knock on the door. It was the same waitress from before. She came in and bowed before saying, "Miss, I asked my colleagues. There's a pharmacy nearby." Chapter 17:17. Yi Qianqian had the urge to kill the waitress. When she saw Xinjilia's face, she smiled awkwardly, but didn't know what to say. "What the hell?" The waitress saw Yi Qianqian's embarrassment and immediately felt that she had done something wrong. He looked at Yi Qianqian with uncertainty and inquiry. Xinjilia also looked at Yi Qianqian with a questioning gaze. He asked, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? I'll take you to the hospital." "I'm fine." Yi Qianqian felt extremely awkward. "Didn't we have sex last night? I was thinking that we didn't take any safety precautions. It would be bad if I got pregnant. So, I wanted to find a pharmacy and buy a birth control pill to take." As she spoke, her cheeks became redder and redder. She looked at the waitress and asked, "Where is the pharmacy? We'll go and have a look after we finish eating." The waitress felt a little guilty. She thought for a moment and said, "It's at." "No need." Xinjilia waved his hand. "Thank you." Go ahead. I need to buy some ointment. Yi Qianqian smiled kindly. The waitress gave her the address and left. What medicine? It's not good for a woman's health. An abortion is even worse. Yi Qianqian picked up her teacup and took a sip. It's better to be safe than sorry. You won't get pregnant even if you take it within 24 hours. Shen Jilya pursed his lips and picked up his teacup to take a sip. It would be great if she really got pregnant. He would make sure that she gave birth to the child no matter what. A woman couldn't give birth to a child without a husband, could she? If everyone knew that she was pregnant, and he proposed to her, she would be in a difficult position. She would have no choice but to comply. But such a despicable method could only be used once. It wasn't the right time yet. Just as Luo Ran had said, if he were to push her too hard, it might backfire. After eating, Yi Qianqian took Shen Jilya to the pharmacy that the waitress had mentioned. It was a big pharmacy. It wasn't small. Yi Qianqian went straight in and asked the pharmacist inside to get the contraceptive pill. After taking it on the spot, she turned around and found that Shen Jilya had disappeared. She called out to Shen Jilya before he slowly walked out of the room. Yi Qianqian was still holding 2 Durex condoms in her hands. Her face turned red as she stared at them. It's not good to take medicine. Shen Jilya placed it on the counter and pointed at Yi Qianqian. He took out his wallet and asked, "How much is it?" The receptionist glanced at Yi Qianqian before placing the condom on the bill. After paying the bill, Shen Jilya carried the shopping bag, and Yi Qianqian walked in front. Suddenly, Yi Qianqian turned around. Shen Jilya stopped in his tracks. Yi Qianqian seemed particularly shy that day. Her face was always pink. Shen Jilya found her even more beautiful. He reached out and pinched her cheeks. What's the matter? Let's not go back to the art gallery. The clay still needs to be baked anyway, and we can only color it tomorrow. Where are we going? I'm sleepy. Let's go back to sleep. Shen Jilya was actually very sleepy. He had been a little agitated the previous night, and hadn't fallen asleep until after midnight. He had been woken up by such a troublesome matter early in the morning. When he heard this, Shen Jilya nodded his head. All right, let's go. Yi Qianqian looked at Shen Jilya. She then shifted her gaze down and grabbed the shopping bag. I'll take it. Let's go. Chapter 17-18. Back at the hotel, Yi Qianqian took a shower before climbing into bed. However, Shen Jilya was already fast asleep. He looked a little tired. Yi Qianqian quietly hid the condom she had just bought. If Shen Jilya asked her to do anything with him, she would just say that she didn't know where she had thrown the condoms. She wouldn't do it. After settling everything, Yi Qianqian covered him with the blanket and lay down with a yawn. He didn't sleep much last night, and neither did Yi Qianqian. All she could think about was what he had said. Getting married, meeting his parents. These weren't things they could do after confirming their relationship for just over half a month. Yi Qianqian felt that things were developing too quickly. The sense of security she had had was washed away by the rapid progress. Yi Qianqian felt that she was a little pretentious, but this was her first time in a relationship. Everything was very unfamiliar to her, especially when she thought about how she had given all her firsts to him, and how Shen Jilya was obviously experienced. She felt even more uncomfortable. After sleeping with him, he kept saying that he wanted to marry her. Yi Qianqian couldn't help but wonder if he said that to all his girlfriends. Because of these thoughts, she couldn't sleep until the middle of the night. When she sensed that Shen Jilya had fallen asleep, she fell into a deep sleep. She was so sleepy that she pulled the blanket over her and closed her eyes. She slept until the evening. When Yi Qianqian woke up, Shen Jilya's arms and legs were on top of her. She tossed his arms and legs away in disgust and stretched. Before she could even finish yawning, Shen Jilya hugged her again. Not only did he hug her, but Shen Jilya also moved his head over and rubbed it against her chest twice. Yi Qianqian wasn't wearing any underwear. When she was rubbed against, she shivered all over. She pushed his big head away with both hands and turned around. She exclaimed, "Go away. Do you think you're a little kid?" Shen Jilya naturally noticed her sensitive reaction and looked at her with mischievous eyes. Yi Qianqian gritted her teeth and pushed his face away. She flipped over and quickly got off the bed. She scrambled out of the room. Shinjulia laughed out loud. His body reacted in the most realistic way. But looking at her like this, he guessed that she was traumatized. She could not even walk properly today. Don't push her too hard. Even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered. She's still a virgin. You have to hold it in no matter how much you want it. Don't give her a psychological scar. You'll lose more than you gain. Luo Ran's words were still echoing in his head. Shinjulia had to get up and open the window. The wind on the water brought along cool water vapor. It was very comfortable. It was past 6 in the evening. The sky wasn't completely dark yet, and the lights weren't fully lit either. Looking out, it was a different kind of scenery. Every moment can capture the beauty. Yi Qianqian's beauty was as boundless as the night. He was the same. One day, he would make her want him no matter what. Yi Qianqian stayed in Venice for 5 days. In those few days, she spent all her time admiring Venice. Since it was free travel, they returned to Huaxia after reaching an agreement. However, the time difference between China and Venice was difficult to adjust. It was 10 o'clock in the evening when they arrived in Kingstown. Coincidentally, it was a normal person's work and rest time. But at that time, they had just woken up. Yi Qianqian felt aggrieved when she thought of the time difference. Chapter 17-19. As soon as they got back, Shinjulia helped Yi Qianqian pack her suitcase, while Yi Qianqian went straight to the bathroom to take a shower. After the shower, Yi Qianqian was in high spirits. As she dried her hair, she walked out and called out, "Shinjulia, it's still early. Let's go watch a movie." However, when he walked out, he found his suitcase in the middle of the living room. There were also 2 safety TS in the middle. Wasn't that the thing she had been hiding for days? Other than that night when Yi Qianqian took the initiative to do it with Shinjulia, she used this as an excuse to avoid him. Shinjulia was lying on the sofa playing with his phone. When he saw Yi Qianqian, he looked at her meaningfully and said, "Sure. Let's go watch a movie." Yi Qianqian was a little embarrassed. She laughed and said, "Let's go then. Put on your shoes. I'll go see what's so interesting." As he spoke, he walked over and kicked the suitcase with his foot. The suitcase immediately closed. Shinjulia could tell from her smile that her guilty conscience was asking for a beating. He got up, put on his shoes and walked to the bathroom. He picked up his phone and sent a message to Luo Ran. "Shinjulia, there's a situation. I bought a few safety tanks a few days ago, but I couldn't find them. I thought I'd left them somewhere and forgot to take them. I didn't expect my girlfriend to hide them." Luo Ran was having a great time in the bar. The colorful lights were accompanied by the hot DJ, and he was dancing with hot beauties. He did not feel his phone vibrate at all. Shinjulia waited for a moment. When Luo Ran didn't reply, he put his phone away. Yi Qianqian chose a movie. It was a Disney blockbuster that had recently become very popular. Yi Qianqian had always been a fan of Disney. She asked Shinjulia for permission before she bought the tickets. Halfway through his computer, Shinjulia's cell phone suddenly rang. There weren't many people watching the late-night movie. Yi Qianqian was munching on popcorn and laughing as she watched the movie. Shinjulia leaned over and whispered, "I'm going out to take a call." Yi Qianqian glanced at it and saw 2 words clearly: Luo Ran. "Oh, go ahead." Shinjulia quickly left. Yi Qianqian wondered why the name Luo Ran sounded so familiar. By the time Shinjulia walked out, the line had already been cut off. When he called back, Luo Ran was very quiet. "Hey, what's going on?" Luo Ran was lying on the bed, feeling very comfortable. Shinjulia was about to speak when he heard a woman's voice. "Ran, I'm going to take a shower." "Okay, I'll wait for you." Luo Ran's voice was very gentle, and then there was the sound of kissing. Shinjulia was speechless. He knew that Yi must have asked another girl out. If he wasn't at the hotel, then he was at the girl's house. "I say, can you calm down and find a girlfriend? Don't fool around outside all day. Be careful of getting sick." "Pfft, I only do it with women who look clean. How pure can a girl who goes to a bar be? Besides, I know how to take precautions." "Forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. What's the situation with you?" Didn't I tell you on WeChat just now? She's the one who hid the condoms. She's been rejecting me with the excuse that she doesn't want to take the medicine. Was it your girlfriend's first time with you? Yes. Chapter 1720. Do it. Ahem. Shin Julia wanted to, but Yi Qianqian didn't want to, so he couldn't say anything. In his heart, he felt as if he had picked her up from the streets that night. He had swallowed such a great advantage. It was like a pie falling from the sky. I don't think she'll agree. If she doesn't agree, then think of a way. What are you doing now? I'm watching a movie. I came out halfway to answer the phone. Shin Julia looked around as he spoke. You're still watching a movie so late? Luo Ran glanced at his phone. It's almost midnight. What are you going to do after the movie? Maybe we're going to have supper, and then go back. Don't eat too much. Your stomach can't take it later. Then what should I do? Threaten and bribe her to see how she reacts. If she really doesn't want to, then there's nothing you can do. It only means that your man isn't very charming. Is that even possible? There's nothing you can do. You really want to be with her. If you want to run away after sex, that's fine. But if you don't handle it well, it'll be over. I can't bear to see you become a living monk after you've finally broken through from being a virgin. Shin Julia was speechless. He felt that it was a waste of effort to find this guy today. That's it. I'm going to take a shower. My baby is still waiting for me, Luo Ran said, and then hung up the phone. Shin Julia had no choice but to walk back to the cinema in the dark. There were many classic Disney movies with classic themes. This was a romantic love story remade from an anime. The ending was, of course, that the hero and the heroine lived happily together. Shin Julia held her hand. When the movie ended and the lights were turned on, he clearly saw the expression on Yi Qianqian's face. Longing and yearning. Looking at Shin Julia, Yi Qianqian quickly stood up. Let's go back for supper. What do you want to eat? Let's eat something light. How about porridge? Yi Qianqian tugged at his arm. She was in a good mood. Shin Julia naturally had no objection. The cinema was not far from where they lived, and there were many supper shops nearby. The two of them walked into a porridge shop. Yi Qianqian ordered some barbecue and porridge and ate with relish. It was late at night, and Yi Qianqian didn't dare to eat her fill. She stuffed the rest of the food into Shin Julia's hands. As Yi Qianqian watched Shin Julia eat, she rested her face in her hands and remarked, "This is the benefit of having a boyfriend." It was obvious that Shin Julia was being bullied, but he gladly endured it. He accepted his fate and ate a lot. When he got home, it was already 1 o'clock. When Yi Qianqian got home, she went straight to her room and changed into her pajamas. She brushed her teeth, washed her face, and put on a facial mask to play with her phone. When Shin Julia came out of the shower, Yi Qianqian happened to remove her mask. Yi Qianqian washed her face and put on some lotion before falling asleep. Shin Julia stood outside and looked at Yi Qianqian's room before looking at his own room. Finally, he turned his head and opened the suitcase in the middle of the living room. He picked up a condom and opened it before walking into Yi Qianqian's room. Yi Qianqian hadn't locked the door. When she heard the commotion, she looked over and blinked. "Are you sleeping here tonight? Okay, let's go together. What about your room? It's empty." Shin Julia walked over and lifted the blanket off her. He hugged her and hugged her. Chapter 1721. You can't sleep. Shin Julia laughed viciously. Yi Qianqian felt her body, which was supposed to be exhausted, suddenly become arrogant again. "You." Before Yi Qianqian could say anything, she was pulled down by Shin Julia. It started too late, and when it finished, it was already past midnight. Yi Qianqian felt as if all the bones in her body were about to break, and she fell into a deep sleep. When Yi Qianqian woke up, she opened her eyes and saw that the room was bright. She woke up with a start and picked up her cell phone to check the time. It was already 10 in the morning. Oh my God! Yi Qianqian immediately scrambled to her feet. It was only when she moved that she realized how uncomfortable she was. The commotion woke Shin Julia up. When he saw Yi Qianqian's movements, he leaned lazily against the headboard and pulled her over. Yi Qianqian fell into his arms. Hey, I'm late for work. Yi Qianqian pushed him away, but he tightened his grip on her and said, I've applied for leave for you. If you don't believe me, check your WeChat. Ah. Yi Qianqian picked up her phone and opened WeChat. She immediately saw that the first message was sent to their chief editor. Sisai. Boss, I just came back from Venice last night. I'm still jet-lagged. Let's rest for another day. Scariest boss. Okay. Rest well. Yi Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. She immediately collapsed onto the bed and nestled herself in Shenjilia's arms. She scared me to death. If I didn't tell her, who knows how badly she'd scold me later. I've said it now. Don't be afraid. Shenjilia supported her. It's time to get up. If you continue to sleep, you won't be able to sleep again tonight. Yeah, I'm going to nap a little longer. Yi Qianqian was naked. She pulled up the blanket and closed her eyes. Shenjilia, on the other hand, wasn't so well behaved. His hands were all over the place. Yi Qianqian was still in a daze. She pressed his hand under her body and said, Stop it. Go to sleep. What do you want to eat? I don't want to eat, shut up. Shenjilia calmed down. He held her in his arms and closed his eyes. Both of them slept until noon, and it was almost lunchtime before they got up together. After washing up, Yi Qianqian's entire body ached. She leaned lazily on the sofa, unwilling to move. What would you like to eat? Shenjilia sat down beside her. Shall we go out to eat? I don't want to move. Yi Qianqian was paralyzed even more. She rested her leg on his. You can order takeout. I'm not very hungry. My legs are sore. I'll rub. Here. A little higher. Here. Go down a little. Here. Yes, and my hands and back. Shenjilia gave her a massage and looked at her neck. It was covered with the marks that he had left behind, and it looked somewhat hideous. Yet he found it pleasing to the eye. He rubbed her back contentedly, and his mind began to fantasize about the future. Last night, he had deliberately delayed the time. What if she was really pregnant? When that happened, Yi Qianqian wouldn't be able to leave even if she wanted to. Yi Qianqian leaned back on the sofa and looked at the expression on his face. She asked suspiciously, What are you thinking about? Such a sinister expression. Shenjilia felt that his naughty thoughts had been exposed, and he immediately became alert. He coughed lightly. What are you thinking about? You have such a handsome face. How is it sinister? Chapter 1722. Tui. Shameless. As Shenjilia pinched it, he leaned over and said, If I wasn't handsome, would you have taken a fancy to me? TSK, I haven't eaten yet. Don't disgust me. What do you want to eat? Anything. Yi Qianqian narrowed her eyes. Just as she said that, her cell phone rang. She glanced at the phone and saw that it was Yi Yuyu. Ever since Yi Yuyu had gotten together with Li Jinnan, she had been living with him. Yi Qianqian was envious of Yi Yuyu. She picked up the phone and answered, Hello. Sister, are you back in Kingstown? I just arrived last night. What's up? Well, I'm going back to my hometown tomorrow. Come with me. Anan has to go home to discuss the wedding with Dad and the guests. I think it'll be better if you're there. Yi Yuyu's belly was growing bigger by the day. The wedding, which was originally scheduled for November, had already begun to take care of the details. By the time November rolled around, Yi Yuyu's belly would be 4 months pregnant. It would be difficult to hide a 4-month pregnant belly. Well, Yi Qianqian wanted to go, but when she recalled that she hadn't been to work for so many days, she declined. Yi Yuyu was a little disappointed. After hanging up, she got up and walked around. Her morning sickness had subsided, but her legs were getting sore. She went to lift the lid of the rice to cool it down. After Yi Yuyu brought the dishes out, the doorbell rang. She looked at the time. It was exactly 12:30 p.m. When she opened the door, Li Jinnan's face appeared in front of her. Yi Yuyu broke into a smile. You're back. Li Jinnan took a step forward and gently wrapped his arm around her shoulders. He planted a gentle kiss on her forehead. Yeah. What are we having today? Crispy fried pork ribs and steamed sanfu bao. And soup. Li Jinnan walked in with his arm around her and closed the door. I'd better call Auntie Zhang back. You're working too hard. I have nothing to do at home every day, so all I can do is cook. In the afternoon, I'll look at the wedding decorations. It's not hard at all. Li Jinnan washed his hands helplessly, but his face was filled with happiness. You've worked hard, wifey. Yi Yu smiled sweetly. She scooped some rice for him and placed it in front of him. Li Jinnan picked up his chopsticks. As he picked up some food, he said, Mom wants you to stay at home. That way, you'll have someone to take care of you while you're pregnant. Yi Yu paused in the act of eating. Stay at home. Old mansion. Yes, Dad has retired recently and has nothing to do at home. Mom has lost a lot of freedom, so I can only ask you to go back to accompany her. I don't think it's a good idea. Isn't your sister-in-law also pregnant? She should be more than 4 months pregnant now. Is she living at home? No, but Nanny Rong is at Yushio's place. And the 2 kids are very smart and know how to take care of their mother. You are always home alone, so you will be bored. Yi Yu had been struggling lately, especially when she couldn't wake up in the morning. She hadn't even made breakfast. Other than designing the wedding layout, he spent the rest of the afternoon sleeping. When it was past 4 o'clock, she forced herself to buy groceries and cook so that Li Jinnan could have a hot meal when he returned. It was indeed a little tiring, but staying at the old mansion. Chapter 17:23. No, stay at home. It's best if you move back to the old mansion. Mom can stay at home and accompany Grandpa. Yi Yu shook her head. I'm not going. Your mom doesn't like me. That's not true. Li Jinnan slowly ate his meal. At that time we weren't married yet, so she wouldn't agree no matter what. Now that we're married, and we're even pregnant with a grandson, how could she not like you? I don't like you. If that's the case, it can't be considered as liking. I'm just passively accepting it. In any case, I'm not going. Yi Yu was traumatized by Qin Shuhua, especially the last time she had said to her face that not only was she married, but she had also been in prison. How could she want a girl like that? Although Yi Yu didn't say it out loud, she still minded what she had said. Li Jinnan naturally knew that as well. Yeah, up to you. Yi Yu replied. I'll go back to the old mansion when I'm a little older. Why don't you wait until after the wedding? There's still 2 more months. That's enough time for me to do some mental work for my mom. Yi Yu couldn't help but nod her head. 2 months wasn't a long time, but it wasn't short either. Yi Yu's belly swelled up, as if it had been inflated. It had been 4 months. As long as she wore loose clothes, it wouldn't be obvious. But her face had obviously put on some weight. Her cheeks had become round, and her complexion was rosy and tender. Her skin was especially good. When she woke up early in the morning, she had to get her makeup done. Yi Yu was so sleepy that she dozed off as she did her makeup. Li Jinnan had spent a lot of money on the wedding. A row of luxury cars stretched from the front of the town to the back. Almost everyone in Yun Town had come to join in the fun. Fang Tongtong was at Yi Qianqian's house. When she saw Yi Qianqian and Yi Yu, her face was full of envy. She said, You're so lucky. All the men you find are so outstanding. Ah, when will it be my turn? Yi Yu was dozing off. Yi Qianqian was beside her. As she arranged the bouquet, she said with a look of disdain, The world is fair. Everything depends on looks. When Fang Tongtong heard that, she was immediately unhappy. She glared at her and said, How can you be like that? Bestie? Humph. How unkind. As she spoke, she looked around. Where's your boyfriend? He didn't come. Yi Qianqian glanced at her. My sister is getting married. Why would she come to the bride's room? Of course she's in Kingstown. Ha ha. I thought he'd be with you. I see that he's very attached to you. He asks about you every second he doesn't see you. Sigh, he's so handsome and so affectionate. Yi Qianqian, you're really lucky. Yi Qianqian was even more disgusted. What kind of taste do you have? Is Shen Jilya handsome? F***ck. You don't know how lucky you are. You have no idea how many people in the town envied you. But now, I think they'll be even more envious of your sister. Look at how generous she is. Yi Qianqian tied up the bouquet. When she heard that, she felt a little strange. I'm not envious of her anymore. I'm envious of Yu. Is it because of Li Jinnan's extravagance? However, Li Jinnan was indeed very rich. Based on the luxury cars and the extravagant decorations of the wedding, Shen Jiliya reckoned that it would be hard for him to keep up. Chapter 1724. Yi Yi woke up with a start. She looked at Yi Qianqian with sleepy eyes and asked, "Are you here? Can I go home and sleep now?" Fang Tongtong laughed out loud. "No, but your man is indeed arriving soon. Get up and get the makeup artist to touch up your makeup." Oh. Yi Yi sat down and felt much more energetic. Yi Qianqian stuffed the bouquet into Yi Yi's hands. Then the phone on the dresser rang. It was Shen Jiliya. It was past 8 in the morning. Shen Jiliya had probably just woken up. "Hello. Has the wedding carriage set off?" "No, the groom hasn't arrived yet." "Oh, when are you coming back? You've been gone for 3 days." Shen Jiliya sounded a little aggrieved. "I can only eat takeout when you're not around." "Poor thing." Fang Tongtong leaned over. "Is it your boyfriend again?" Yi Qianqian couldn't help but smile. She flung Fang Tongtong aside and said, "What do you mean by again? It's only been a few days. And you've made more than a dozen calls a day. If you tie them together, I'll just count you too." There was a hint of jealousy in Fang Tongtong's voice as she yelled into the phone. "Do you know that you're a good-for-nothing when you're so clingy to women?" Shen Jiliya smiled when he heard that. "What do you mean by promising? Having a woman is already very promising." When Fang Tongtong heard some of it, she was so envious and jealous that she was about to go crazy. "Oh my God, Yi Qianqian, you're so lucky." Yi Qianqian pushed her away. "Go away. Don't cause trouble." Then he took the phone and went to the side to make a call. Shen Jiliya laughed. "She's your best friend, isn't she? She's quite fun to play with. Isn't that so? It's just that he's too otaku. His circle is too small, so it's hard for him to get a girlfriend. Bring her to the wedding later. Li Jinnan's friends are all famous people in the business world, or artists from his company. Let her pick a few." "Pick a few? Do you think she's a god? She doesn't like the good ones. And she doesn't like the bad ones either. Sigh. Ha ha ha, Yu is pregnant. You have to look after her. By the way, I have good news for you." "What?" Shen Jiliya smiled mysteriously. "I won't tell you now. I'll tell you when you get home tonight." "What? Why are you being so mysterious?" "Guess." Yi Qianqian thought about it, but she still couldn't figure out what good news he had for him to keep her in suspense. "The groom is here," Fang Tongtong shouted. Yi Qianqian looked out the window. When she saw the luxury cars approaching, she said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. The bride is here." "Okay, see you later." Bye-bye." "I missed you," Shen Jiliya said softly. Yi Qianqian was caught off guard. Her heart skipped a beat, but she quickly pursed her lips and smiled quietly. She hung up the phone and hurriedly joined the group of bridal sisters. It was Li Jinnan's first time receiving a bride, so he was a little nervous. She heard that when Yu Lily got married, Yi Qianqian had come up with a lot of bad ideas to make things difficult for Oming. She was mentally prepared. First, he gave her a big red packet and said some nice words. Perhaps it was because Yi Yu was pregnant, but unexpectedly, Yi Qianqian didn't make things difficult for him. She quickly released the bride. Yi Yu was led out by Yi Zhenhua. She walked gently, but every step she took seemed to step on Li Jinnan's heart. Chapter 1725. Li Jinnan nodded. "I will, Dad." In fact, Li Jinnan had already changed the way he addressed him, but at this time, the meaning of Dad was completely different. Yi Zhenhua chuckled. His face was full of emotion. He nodded again and again. Then he put his daughter's hand in Li Jinnan's and turned to Yi Yu. "Remember to come home often." Although Yi Yu had been married twice, in her previous marriage, other than a marriage certificate, there was no other wedding ceremony, wedding photos, relatives, or anything else. This was the first time she had been treated so seriously. Yi Yu's eyes were burning, and her heart was warm. She looked at Yi Zhenhua and nodded. Yi Zhenhua patted Li Jinnan on the shoulder. "Go." Li Jinnan nodded and held Yi Yu's hand as they walked toward the wedding car. Yi Qianqian watched from the side, and her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Yi Zhenhua was old, His hair had turned white, and his back was hunched. He looked very old. Yi Qianqian walked forward and held Yi Jianhua's hand. Dad, I'm still here. Yi Jianhua smiled. You'll get married sooner or later. Jilia is a good guy. I guess you'll be taken away by him soon. It won't be that easy. I don't want to get married so soon. It's boring. You're already 26, and Jilia is 27. The age gap between the two of you isn't that big. However, a man is a flower in his 30s, but a woman is a different story. You still have to hurry up. No. I want to get married when I'm 28. I've been with Jilia for less than 3 months. If I get married, wouldn't it be a flash marriage? What if he doesn't cherish me? Yi Jianhua thought about it and nodded his head. That's true. We shouldn't rush it. It won't be too late to get married after 2 years. Yeah. Yi Qianqian was very proud. The best time to be in a relationship is 2 to 3 years. At that time, it's time to get married. If we get married too early, it'll be a divorce in the future. That'll be terrible. Yi Jianhua glared at her reproachfully. Don't speak so soon. I can tell that Jilia is serious about you. If you really don't like him, don't hold him back. Of course not. If I didn't like him, I wouldn't have dated him. I just don't want to get married. Yi Qianqian waved her hand. Dad, don't bother yourself with our trivial matters. Yi Jianhua looked on helplessly. It's good that you have your own ideas. With that he walked in. Fang Tongtong walked forward and nudged Yi Qianqian. She said, You've only been dating him for 3 months. I thought the two of you had been dating for a long time. It's no wonder. 3 months is still a fresh period of love. No wonder he's so attached to you. Yeah. In truth, Yi Qianqian didn't feel very safe around him. She had seen this kind of situation many times. In the beginning, a man would always have that kind of impulse towards a woman, but when that impulse passed, the feelings would slowly fade. Since the two of you have been together for so long, have you done that? Fang Tongtong smiled suggestively and nudged her. Yi Qianqian pretended not to understand. What? That. I don't know what you're talking about. Chapter 1726. That's impossible. Yi Qianqian glanced at her. I know what I'm doing. When she was with Shen Jilia, she would never do it with him unless he wore a condom. That was her principle. During this period, she had a tight control over the pace. She refused to do it during the 2 days before and after her period. She refused to do it during the dangerous period, so there was no chance of getting pregnant. This was her responsibility to herself, and also to him. When Fang Tongtong saw Yi Qianqian's expression, she became even more envious. If you can have a man with such a strong personality, why can't I? Because you're ugly. Fang Tongtong almost jumped up and strangled her. Get lost. Yi Qianqian laughed out loud. Let's go to Kingstown. Yi Yuyu's wedding was very grand. It was not only a happy occasion for Li Jinan, but it was also a happy occasion for the entire Li family. Many high-ranking officials and dignitaries came just for the sake of old Master Li Sun's reputation. As a result, they received a lot of gifts. Because many of the guests were elders, Li Jinan had to personally welcome them to show his courtesy as a junior. Because Yi Yu was pregnant, Li Jinan chased her in after standing outside for a while. Li Xiqing and his family arrived late. Li Mosen and Li Jianhua walked side by side. One was calm and quiet like a little adult, while the other was lively and innocent. Li Jianxian, who had just returned from the capital for the summer break, held Su Qianxi's hand and walked slowly. As he walked, his eyes were fixed on his mother's stomach. Li Xiqing held his wife's arm. When he saw his son's expression, he said impatiently, Be careful, or your sister will kick you. When Li Jianhua heard that, she turned her head and blinked. She walked over with a smile and raised her little foot at Li Jianxian. Big brother, I'm going to kick you. Li Jianxian held her back. Daddy wasn't talking about you. He was talking about the little sister in Mommy's stomach. Why? How can you tell it's a little sister? Li Jianhua widened her eyes and looked closer. I didn't see a little sister. I only saw Mommy's stomach. Li Jianxian couldn't help but smile. How can you tell? You have to give birth to it to see. Oh, then how did Big Brother know it's a little sister? Dad said so. How did Dad know? Li Jianyue turned her curious gaze to Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing's expression did not change. He glanced at his daughter and slowly said, "Because Daddy hopes that the little baby in Mommy's belly is a little girl as cute as Ursu." Li Ursu nodded in understanding and said, "But father, didn't you say that we will only know when Mother gives birth? What if she gives birth to a little brother? Does Ursu like little boys?" Su Qianxi bent down and touched her daughter's little head. Li Jianyue nodded. "Yeah, Ursu likes little brother. I think little brother will definitely be like Dad and little uncle in the future. He will be a very good brother. Brothers are not one, they are a pair." Li Jinan came up and rubbed the little girl's fluffy head. Then he looked at Su Qianxi's belly. "Sister-in-law, your belly is growing so fast." Chapter 17:27. That kind of thing. Just experiencing it once, Su Qianxi could not bear it anymore. If it happened again, she might really go crazy. There won't be a second time. Li Xiqing's tone was very firm. He took his wife's hand and said, "Let's go in." Li Jinan watched from the side with mixed feelings. It was not easy for Li Xiqing and Su Qianxi to be able to be together now. Li Jinan was very clear about the twists and turns. Only the people involved would know how difficult it was to achieve such a feat. The guests came and went. Many of them saw the three little guys. Their eyes were shining. They pinched one and hugged the other. At first, the two boys were willing to cooperate. But after 3 times, they immediately ran away. In the end, even Li Jianyue couldn't take it anymore. She hugged her parents' arms and pouted, unwilling to go out. Li Xiqing didn't stop them. Seeing the little girl like that, he smiled and said slowly, "If you don't want to, remember to reject it yourself. Daddy and Mommy can't always help you. Do you know what to do next time you encounter such a situation?" Li Jianyue pouted even higher and said, "Humph, those uncles and aunties don't understand us at all. Although I'm a child, my face still hurts. No one will understand you. If you don't reject it, others will only think that you agree. At this time, you should tell them that you don't like it. So please ask them to stop pinching you." The little girl didn't say anything. She pinched the red tablecloth on the table and rubbed it. She pouted and lowered her head. It was obvious that she was depressed. Su Qianxi touched her daughter's little head and took the juice that Li Xiqing had just poured for her. "Ursu, do you want something to drink?" "Yeah." Li Jianyue's eyes immediately lit up and took it with both hands. Li Jianxian and Li Mosin went in to take refuge for a long time. They hid for more than 10 minutes before they dared to come out. They came to Li Jianyue's side in a hurry. When Li Ursa saw them, she was even more unhappy. She swallowed the juice and said loudly, "Big brother is a bad guy. He put me down and left. Big brother Mosin is also a bad guy." Li Jianxian's expression didn't change as he replied, "It's your own fault for not leaving. You're the one at a disadvantage. We're not stupid. Of course we have to leave." Li Mosin nudged Li Jianxian and said, "Brother Mosin knows his mistake. I'll definitely bring you along next time." Li Jianyue put down the glass of juice and snorted. "There won't be a next time. Next time, I will reject these annoying uncles and aunties. Don't pinch my face again." The little guys did not hide their voices at all. The men and women who had just pinched them were a little embarrassed. Li Mosin pulled her back and said, "Don't speak so loudly." "Why?" Li Jianyue didn't quite understand. Li Jianxian found a chair and sat down. "Don't make a lot of noise in public." "Oh." When Li Jianyue saw this, she ran over and sat down next to Li Jianxian. She placed her chubby little hands on the table and shouted, "Brother Mosin, come and sit." When Li Mosin heard that, he walked over. But Li Jianyue no longer looked at him. Instead, she looked at Li Jianxian and asked, "Brother, is the capital fun? Was Grandpa and Grandma fun?" Chapter 17:28. "Oh, are there little girls to play with?" "No, you can't play with little girls." Li Jianxian poured a glass of juice for himself, and then poured some for Li Jianyue. "Why are you so perverted? You actually asked your brother to play with little girls." "I'm not perverted." Li Jianyue took the juice, her chubby little face filled with anxiety. "With a little girl like me to play with, I'm sure he won't be bored. After all, I'm so cute. I'm a little princess. Li Jianxian looked disgusted. A little girl like you is too annoying. I don't want to play with you. Li Jianyue was angry. Her little face puffed up as she said, How can you say that, brother? It's too impolite. Do you know what impolite means? It means impolite. Wrong. Li Jianxian threw a look of disdain at Li Jianyue. Who taught you that? Li Jianyue was unconvinced. She put her hands on her waist and said, Brother, you're lying. If that's not what it means, then what does it mean? Impolite means losing etiquette. Etiquette is etiquette, and politeness is politeness. Politeness is a basic quality, and etiquette is a personal accomplishment. It's not the same. Li Jianyue didn't understand that. When she heard what Li Jianxian said, she was confused. She looked at Li Jianxian with wide eyes and asked, Brother, did Grandpa and Grandma teach you this too? Li Jianxian nodded and said, Grandma knows a lot. Grandma can also dance, play the piano and sing. Grandpa taught me archery and horse riding. Wow! Li Jianyue's eyes lit up. Brother can even ride a horse in the capital. Yeah, it's a pony. Grandpa specially bought it for me. He keeps it at the back of the yard. I often ride a horse there. Sometimes the brother next door comes back to play with me. We shoot together, swim together, run together, and compete in other things. It was rare for Li Jianxian to speak so much in one breath. Li Xiqing also looked over. However, the little fellow didn't realize that his father was looking at him. He happily shared his life in the capital with his sister and continued. It's not just about these competitions. We also compete in academic results. During the exam, if I'm not the first, then he's the first. He's very good. Wow, brother. What brother are you talking about? A brother older than brother? Yes, 2 years older than me. Is that older brother also in the 3rd grade? Yes. Li Jianxian nodded, and there was some pride in his eyes. I am the youngest in our class. I think I can skip a grade next year, Dad. As he spoke, he looked at Li Xiqing. I want to skip a grade. No. Li Xiqing's words stopped all his thoughts. Li Jianxian was a little surprised. At the same time, he was a little unwilling and asked, Why? You can study, but you can't skip grades. You're the youngest in your class. But what about your height? Li Jianxian said matter-of-factly. Of course he's the youngest. How's your relationship with your classmates? Li Jianxian choked on his words. He thought for a moment and said, It's fine as long as I have fun with Chu. Why don't the other students play with you? Chapter 1729. Then will those who are taller than you bully you? They won't have the chance because Chu and I are good friends. Li Jianxian looked at Li Xiqing and enunciated each word clearly. Many people in the class admire Chu, and so do I. I am admired by many people. Yes, oh no. Li Jianxian was even more indignant and exclaimed, Why? When you can protect yourself, I will allow you to skip a grade. When Li Jianxian heard this, he panicked and shouted, Dad, I can protect myself. No one in the class can beat me. What's the point of bullying a child? Li Xiqing's eyes were full of disdain. I'm a child too. Li Jianxian said confidently. You treat yourself as a child, which proves that you are not mature enough. I won't allow it. Li Jianxian was furious. Dad, you are being unreasonable. Do you know what it means to be unreasonable? When Li Jianxian heard this, he knew that Li Xiqing was setting him up again. Panting with rage, he crossed his arms and turned his head away, not saying a word. Li Jianyue propped her hands on the table and looked at her brother and father with her big round eyes. She said, Why can't I skip a grade, Dad? Didn't brother already skip a grade? Yeah, it's because he just skipped a grade, so I won't allow it, Li Xiqing said softly. Everyone needs a process to grow up. You can't stand that they are more childish than you, so you want to skip a grade. Li Jianxian was stunned. These words were indeed true, but he clearly didn't say a word just now. How did Dad know? Li Xiqing knew from his expression and continued. But have you thought about it? If you can't even stand them, how are you going to stand those 5th and 6th graders, who are more difficult to deal with than 3rd graders? Are they difficult to deal with? The age of 5th and 6th grade, until the age of 15 or 16, is the age when it is the easiest to be arrogant. It is also the easiest to be blinded by your own thoughts and do something incomprehensible. And you obviously haven't reached that stage. You can't protect yourself. Li Jianxian still didn't quite understand, but he could hear the meaning between the lines. In short, he was doing it for his own good. Li Jianyue still didn't understand. Daddy, does inflating one's ego mean getting fat from eating? Well, you can think of it that way. Oh, Li Jianyue nodded her head. Then she giggled and said, our teacher said that I've gained weight yesterday. Actually, she was saying that I'm arrogant, right? She laughed out loud, but he looked calm and shook his head. You should lose weight. You can only eat 1 drumstick a day in the future. The smile on Li Jianyue's face fell. She immediately pouted and said, Daddy. Li Xiqing did not look at her and turned his head. Li Jianxian, on the other hand, was not too happy. He said gloomily, Chu is going to skip a grade. I want to skip with him. No. Li Xiqing's voice was calm but firm. Li Jianyue realized that pouting was useless, so she stopped. She turned to look at her brother and asked, Brother, is Brother Chu very powerful? Yes, Chu said that when he grows up, he wants to be a soldier. Chapter 1730. No, uncle is in the army. Chu said that he wants to be a special forces soldier and a sniper when he grows up. Li Jianyue's eyes lit up. Snipers shoot from the rooftop, right? I know. Great-grandfather told me that snipers are very powerful. They can shoot through a poplar tree within 100 steps. They can also shoot birds on the ground and fish in the water. I heard that they can even survive in the wild. They are very powerful. Su Qianxi couldn't help but smile as she watched her chubby daughter dance. Li Jianxian replied, That's called shooting through a poplar tree. And why would a sniper shoot birds? No one's shooting range is that far. Why would a sniper catch fish? Are you sure it was great-grandfather who told you that? Li Jianyue blinked and thought for a moment before saying, I don't know. Humph. Snipers don't shoot birds from the rooftop. They can stand very far away to shoot and control a bad guy. Not just from the rooftop. They can also be in the trees or in the mountains. The Special Forces soldiers are the most elite and the most outstanding among the soldiers who protect the country. Li Jianxian's face was full of yearning. As he spoke, he didn't forget to look at Li Xiqing. Li Jianxian was looking forward to his reaction. Su Qianxi, who had been listening to her son, could see it. Naturally, Li Xiqing could see it too. Li Xiqing glanced at his son and didn't respond. Li Jianxian felt a little uneasy and said, Dad, can I be a soldier when I grow up? Be a soldier? Of course you can. If Li Xiao or Captain Li heard this, they would probably go crazy with joy. Even in their dreams, they wanted their sons to join the army, but Li Jinan had retired early. What was even worse was that Li Xiqing had never even been in the army. The 2 old guys were always saying, Men of the Li family, men of the Li family. When Li Xiqing heard this, he nodded slightly and said, Yes, but you have to change your bad habits first. What bad habits do I have? You don't realize that you have a bad habit. That is a bad habit. Li Xiqing pressed on the top of his head. Today is your uncle's wedding. When we get home, I'll analyze why I said you have a bad habit. Li Jianxian was still looking forward to it, but he was a little disappointed when he heard that. In the end, his gaze fell on the huge wedding photo in the distance. So pretty. Yi Yi was dozing off in the bridal room. She was clutching a bouquet of flowers as the makeup artist touched up her makeup. The sister legion was powerful, but they had also gone out to greet the guests. Yi Qianxian looked at Yi Yu from inside. It was really inconvenient to get married while pregnant. While everyone else was busy, Yi Yu was secretly dozing off. In front of her, there would definitely be people criticizing the bride for not going to greet the guests. If this became a topic of gossip, she would probably suffer in her husband's family in the future. It's ready. The guests are almost all here. It's almost time. Is the bride ready? When Yi Qianxian heard that, she quickly went forward to pull Yi Yu up and said, Oh, my dear bride. This is the only wedding you'll ever have in your life. You should cherish it. Hurry up. Everyone's waiting for you outside. Chapter 1731. Everything was under Li Jinnan's control. As long as nothing happened to her, everything would be fine. Those were Li Jinnan's exact words. Yi Yu's heart was bursting with security. After stretching, she slowly walked out. Many people had been invited to the wedding. Sacred music was playing. Surrounded by beautiful women, Yi Yu slowly walked the red carpet. Li Jinnan looked at her from afar, and the corners of his lips slowly turned up. Yi Yu's figure was voluptuous. Her head was covered with a romantic white veil. Everyone around her was looking at her with envy. Li Jinnan had given her everything she had never enjoyed before. She was happier than anyone else. Yi Qianqian saw Yi Yu's blissful expression in the crowd. Her expression was a little complicated. Suddenly, she felt a warmth around her waist, and it tightened. Yi Qianqian jumped in fright. She looked back and saw Shenjilia's face. Shenjilia leaned over and pulled her into his arms. He looked at Yi Yu and said, "God is fair." Yi Qianqian's emotions calmed down. She turned to look at the happy newlyweds. Yes, the heavens are fair. The amount of suffering one can endure determines the amount of happiness one can receive. Yi Yu is worth it. When Shenjilia saw that she didn't speak, he hugged her even tighter and whispered, "Are you tired?" Yi Qianqian leaned into his embrace and held his hand with both hands. She gently shook her head. "I'm just hungry. Let's go get something to eat. They haven't said their vows yet." "I'm not going. Let's wait a while." Shenjilia and Yi Qianqian didn't move much, but the people around them couldn't help but look over. Yi Qianqian blushed under the stares. She squeezed Shenjilia's hand. "Let go. They're all looking at us. Let them look. It's fine." Shenjilia didn't let go. Instead, he picked her up. "The air conditioner is too low. I'm cold. You're shameless." Yi Qianqian felt too embarrassed to face anyone. She lowered her head. "Aren't you embarrassed? Why is it embarrassing for me to hug my own woman?" Shenjilia buried his face in the crook of her neck. "Don't be afraid. It's not like you're hugging someone else's wife. That won't do. What if I change boyfriends in the future? That would be terrible." Shenjilia tightened his grip and said in a low voice, "You're so fickle. Do you think I won't bite you? Bah. Go ahead and bite me." Yi Qianqian didn't believe that the man could be so thick-skinned in front of everyone in the hall. The corners of Shenjilia's lips curled up, and he nibbled on her ear. Yi Qianqian exclaimed in surprise. Her exclamation attracted everyone's attention. When she felt the gazes of everyone around her, she was so embarrassed that she wanted to dig a hole in the ground. She gave Shenjilia a hard shove, and immediately turned to leave. Shenjilia hurriedly followed her, but Yi Qianqian disappeared into the crowd in no time. Shenjilia smiled. He was actually quite pleased with himself. "You want to change boyfriends?" "No way. I'm willing." When Yi Yu finished speaking, the crowd erupted in cheers. "Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me." The cheers made the atmosphere so heated that it was easy to empathize with them. Shenjilia looked up and couldn't help but sigh. He muttered to himself, "How blissful." "You're almost there too," a female voice said. Shenjilia turned his head. It was Fang Tongtong. Fang Tongtong giggled and leaned over. "Where's Qianqian?" "She ran away." "Ha ha ha. Why did she run away?" "You must have done something wrong. But aren't you guys almost there too?" Chapter 1732. When Fang Tongtong saw Shenjilia's expression, she understood and asked, "Qianqian doesn't want to marry you?" Shenjilia wasn't surprised that she knew. Fang Tongtong was Yi Qianqian's best friend. The two of them had grown up wearing the same pair of pants, so they would definitely share their feelings. Shenjilia spread his hands. "She's not ready yet." "What?" Fang Tongtong snorted. "What do you mean she's not ready? I know this girl too well. She's still playful. You're her first boyfriend, so she'll definitely want to date a few more. But that's only human nature, don't you think?" Fang Tongtong snorted. Shenjilia was speechless. Fang Tongtong stepped forward and grabbed his hand, as if her heart was aching for him. She patted it and said, "My Qianqian has a straightforward personality. You have to be more tolerant of her. Since she doesn't want to, you can just wait." Ha ha ha. Shenjilia was speechless. He quietly retracted his hand. "Okay. I'm going to the bathroom. Fong Tongtong pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She looked at Shinjilia's tall and straight back and felt a little regretful. How could such an outstanding man be picked up by that girl Yi Qianqian? After Yi Qianqian emerged from the crowd, she went to the bathroom. When she came out, she happened to bump into Fong Tongtong. When Fong Tongtong saw her, she seemed a little surprised and said, "So you're here? Your boyfriend is looking for you." "Ignore him." Yi Qianqian yawned. "I'm so sleepy. I woke up too early." "Oh, did you guys quarrel?" "No." "Why do you ask?" "Nothing." "Ha ha ha. Then why are you ignoring him?" "Forget it. I'm going to the bathroom." Fong Tongtong hugged her stomach and headed for the bathroom. Yi Qianqian didn't mind. When she walked out, she saw Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi's stomach looked a little big. Li Xiqing was beside her. They chatted and smiled. He was handsome, and she was beautiful. Yi Qianqian was envious. They were a natural match. When she saw Yi Qianqian, Su Qianxi waved at her. Yi Qianqian smiled back as a greeting. It couldn't be helped. They weren't familiar. The main stage was Yi Yuyu and Li Jinan. After Yi Qianqian finished her meal, she was exhausted. Shinjilia could tell that and said, "Let's go back first. You woke up so early in the morning. Don't tire yourself out." Yi Qianqian was full. She leaned on Shinjilia and yawned. "Yeah, but today is my sister's wedding. Your sister is getting married, not you. Your sister has already left. I'll go take a look. I don't think I need your help anymore. If you don't need it, we'll leave." "Okay, then I'll go to the bathroom." "Again? Didn't you just go there?" "Maybe my kidneys are weak." Yi Qianqian laughed to herself. She got up and headed to the bathroom. Shinjilia didn't know what to say. He looked at it for a moment, and after confirming that there was nothing he could do to help, he bade farewell to Li Jinan and left. After Yi Qianqian went to the bathroom, she sent a message to Fong Tongtong. The gist of it was that she was leaving first, and that Fong Tongtong should be careful. However, Fong Tongtong sent him a few question marks the moment he sent it. "Tongtong of the 900 million maiden dreams. Ah, I was planning to stay at your place tonight. You're going back now." 660. "Yeah, my dad is going back to Yintown later. You can go with him." "Tongtong of the 900 million maiden dreams. I'm going to play in Kingstown for a few days. Bring me along. If I don't stay with you, I'll have to stay in a hotel." Chapter 1733. Tongtong. "I remember you have an empty room at your place. Hee, it's mine for the next few days." She didn't really want Fong Tongtong to move in. After all, they were a couple. It would be inconvenient for a single girl to suddenly move in. But since Fong Tongtong had already said so, Yi Qianqian couldn't refuse. 660. "Fine. Where are you? I'll wait for you at the entrance of the hotel." Tongtong with 900 million maiden dreams. Okay, Shinjilia had driven there himself. He picked up the two girls from his car and drove in the direction of his home. Once Fong Tongtong got into the car, she lay down in the back seat and wailed, "I'm so tired." "Oh my God, I'll probably be even more tired when you get married." Ah. When Shinjilia heard that, he glanced at her through the rearview mirror and frowned. Yi Qianqian leaned against the side and chuckled when she heard that. "You won't die of exhaustion. When you find a partner, I'll be as tired as you unless you're not getting married." "That won't do. I have to get married." "Sigh, I just don't have a partner." Fong Tongtong scratched her head. "Oh Shun, do you have any outstanding young men around you? Introduce them to me. I do have outstanding ones, but there aren't many unmarried doctors at our age." "Are all the people you know doctors?" "Yes, colleagues." "Do you have any other types?" "Doctors seem to be too busy. They don't stay at home all day, and are often busy with surgeries." Yi Qianqian laughed out loud. "You're overthinking things. This guy only knows psychiatrists, pharmacologists, and scientists. Psychiatrists have nothing to do all day. He has nothing to do all day, so he just hangs around." Fong Tongtong nodded. "That's fine. Okay. I'll keep an eye out for you later," Shinjilia replied casually. He stared ahead and drove steadily. Yi Qianqian could tell that Shinjilia wasn't in a good mood. She glanced at him and asked, "Are you in a bad mood?" "No, I'm just thinking about some things." Shenjilia replied without looking at Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian felt a little strange. Shenjilia rarely acted like this. A pair of eyes stared straight at him. Shenjilia seemed to feel it too. He looked over and raised his eyebrows slightly. Yi Qianqian looked away in disgust and closed her eyes. By the time he got home, Yi Qianqian had already slept for quite some time. Fang Tongtong woke her up with a roar. "We're home!" Yi Qianqian was shocked and looked around. Shenjilia frowned in displeasure. "Why are you bothering her?" Fang Tongtong stuck out her tongue. "You'll spoil her like this. You'll be the one to suffer in the future." Shenjilia went to the front passenger seat to open the door and let Yi Qianqian in. When she heard Fang Tongtong's words, she pursed her lips and said, "It's best if I'm the one who suffers." When Fang Tongtong heard that, she couldn't take it anymore. She clutched her chest and said, "Oh my God, you're such a great boyfriend. Qianqian, you better cherish him." Yi Qianqian was so sleepy that she couldn't open her eyes. When she heard Fang Tongtong's loud voice, she also looked sleepy. "I'm sleepy." Shenjilia supported her as they walked inside. Yi Qianqian stumbled as she walked. Shenjilia picked her up and pressed the elevator button. "TSK. You're so strong. Did Shen train before? He likes to work out when he's free. He's very strong." Yi Qianqian leaned against him without a hint of guilt. Chapter 1734. Shenjilia's lips tightened. He quickly walked into the elevator and went in first. "Which floor?" Fang Tongtong walked in and reached out to press the doorbell. Shenjilia didn't say a word. He pressed the button and went up. His expression didn't look too good, and he didn't say a word. He held Yi Qianqian in his arms and stared at the reflective surface of the elevator door. Yi Qianqian wasn't the only one. Even Fang Tongtong could tell that the man was a little unhappy. Could it be because of what I said before? Fang Tongtong felt that it was very possible. She glanced at Shenjilia and felt guilty. Yi Qianqian could clearly sense Fang Tongtong's expression. She pursed her lips and narrowed her eyes, pretending not to see anything. Ding! The elevator arrived at the station. Shenjilia carried Yi Qianqian out first, and Fang Tongtong naturally lagged behind. After Yi Qianqian was put down, Shenjilia opened the door, turned on the lights and walked in. Yi Qianqian turned her head and said, "Come in." Fang Tongtong stuck out her tongue and quickly caught up to her. She whispered, "Is your boyfriend unhappy?" "Looks like it. He might be in a bad mood." "Why?" "Who knows? It's always like this. It's always strange." Fang Tongtong looked a little uneasy and said, "It can't be because of me, can it? Does he not welcome me staying at your place? Why don't I find a hotel to sleep in?" Yi Qianqian's expression didn't look too good. She angrily said, "Why would you find a hotel? Just sleep here. He's not such a petty person. There must be something else. It's not because of you. Come in." Fang Tongtong shook her head. "Forget it. I'd better leave." Fang Tongtong. Yi Qianqian was furious. She reached out and pulled her in before closing the door. Fang Tongtong was pulled in. The first thing she did was look for Shenjilia. "Where is he?" Yi Qianqian didn't notice that she was looking for him. She asked, "Are you taking a shower?" I didn't bring any clothes. Do you have any?" Fang Tongtong was still wearing her bridesmaid's outfit. It was a pretty little gauze gown with silicone patches underneath. It was a last-minute decision to stay in Kingstown, so there was no change of clothes. "I do, but I've worn them all before. I don't have any new underwear." Yi Qianqian glanced at her. "I can get you a set of pajamas. It doesn't matter. It's not like I didn't wash it. Just wear it again." "No, I have a boyfriend. You can wear pajamas but not underwear." Yi Qianqian had always been straightforward, so Fang Tongtong immediately understood what she meant. She nodded her head and didn't say anything. When Yi Qianqian walked into her room, she immediately saw Shenjilia standing by the window. When Yi Qianqian saw Shenjilia, she couldn't help but feel angry. Yi Qianqian closed the door and walked up to him. She placed her hand on his shoulder and asked, "What's the meaning of this?" "My best friend is staying at our place for a few days. Why are you giving her such a dirty look?" Shenjilia turned around and looked at Yi Qianqian's obviously unhappy face. He pursed his lips and said, I think that your best friend doesn't know how to conduct herself. How could she just stay at someone else's place like that? Even if you're her best friend, you have no boundaries at all. More importantly, she had pretended not to know anything about what she had said to him in the hotel. This made Shenjilia feel a little disgusted. He was a psychologist, so he could vaguely guess what Fang Tongtong was thinking. Chapter 1735. Based on normal human psychology, Fang Tongtong's expression was one of extreme envy toward Yi Qianqian. While she was envious of Yi Qianqian, she also had an indescribable admiration for Shenjilia. Under such circumstances, she had decided to move in at the last minute. How much of it was really just to have fun? Shenjilia didn't want to speculate about others with ill intentions, but based on the current situation, it was difficult for him to have a good impression of Fang Tongtong. Yi Qianqian didn't know what Shenjilia was thinking. When she heard what he said, she laughed and said, It's because we have a good relationship. We grew up wearing the same pair of pants. It's not a big deal to just have fun. However, this last-minute decision was indeed a little sudden. I'll reprimand her later. But since she's already here, we can't just chase her away, can we? Shenjilia pursed his lips and didn't say a word. Yi Qianqian gently pushed him and said, No matter what, she's my best friend. You should at least give her some face. It's not good to be a bad person just because you want to be. Shenjilia looked at Yi Qianqian's face and sighed softly. He reached out and touched her cheek. All right then. When can she leave? With her here, we can't have a world of just the two of us. A world of just the two of us. Yi Qianqian used to think that those words were a symbol of happiness, but now that she heard them come out of Shenjilia's mouth, why did they sound so dirty? Her cheeks turned red. She glared at him and said, I knew you weren't such a petty person, so that's what you were worried about. Shenjilia raised his eyebrows slightly and didn't comment. I don't think she'll stay for long. She still has a shop to look after. Her mother won't help her. Don't worry. Shenjilia's heart calmed down. He lowered his head and kissed her lips gently. That's good. Yi Qianqian instinctively turned to look, but Shenjilia immediately hugged her and kissed her lips again, deepening the kiss. It had been a few days. Yi Qianqian had been accompanying Yi Yuyu to her wedding. Li Jinan couldn't see Yi Yuyu, and Shenjilia couldn't see Yi Qianqian either. Only God knew how he had survived the past few days. Now that there was an uninvited guest in the house, he would have to behave himself for a few more days. Yi Qianqian missed him dearly too. She hugged him and responded gently, but she didn't forget to glance at the door. Yi Qianqian did not close the door. She was afraid that Fang Tongtong would see them. It would be a sin to hurt Fang Tongtong, who was single. Shenjilia immediately saw through her intentions. He turned her around in his arms and pinned her down on the bed. MMM. Yi Qianqian resisted and pushed him away. Qianqian, aren't you looking for clothes for me? Haven't you found it yet? Fang Tongtong's loud voice could be heard, and it was getting closer and closer. Yi Qianqian struggled even harder, and Shenjilia released her. Yi Qianqian immediately wiped her mouth and shouted, I'm coming. Fang Tongtong walked in, and immediately saw Shenjilia standing by the bed. His clothes were a little disheveled. Yi Qianqian, on the other hand, was rummaging through her wardrobe. After searching for something, she said, There's a new one. I haven't worn this before. As he spoke, he stuffed it into Fang Tongtong's hand and slowly pushed her out. Chapter 1736. Bah. What can I do? You're the only one who's full of drama. Yi Qianqian pushed her away and said in a low voice, Don't come into our room for no reason in the future. He doesn't like it. Fang Tongtong understood, but she was still a little unhappy. She said, Isn't this your apartment? Your boyfriend is only staying here temporarily, right? What do you mean mine or his? We live together, so it's ours. Yi Qianqian disagreed. His car is still his. I'm still sitting in it. How can that be the same? It's basic for a man to have a car and a house. Your boyfriend doesn't have a house and is still living here. I want to go in but you don't let me. Why? Fang Tongtong's voice wasn't loud. Only Yi Qianqian and Fang Tongtong could hear her. Don't tell me you're planning to use this as a marital home? That won't do. I'll be the first to disagree. Aya, that's impossible. I don't want to get married yet. What's the rush? Aren't you going to take a shower? Hurry up. Fang Tongtong clutched the underwear in her hand and asked, Where are my pajamas? I don't have any. Wait here. Yi Qianqian turned around and dashed into the room. He rummaged through the wardrobe and took out a set of pajamas that she didn't usually wear and said, Here. It's so ugly. Did you buy it? The aesthetics of a straight man. Old Shin bought it. I don't really wear it, so you can put up with it for now. Tomorrow after work we'll go shopping and buy a few more sets. Pfft. All right then. That's the aesthetic of a straight man. Fang Tongtong took it and quickly entered the bathroom. However, he held the pajamas that Yi Qianqian had just handed to him with both hands and compared them in the mirror. It seemed not bad. Yi Qianqian finally finished serving Fang Tongtong and returned to her room to remove her makeup. Shen Jilia was sitting on the edge of the bed with a cell phone in his hand. It looked like he was chatting on WeChat. Yi Qianqian glanced at him and casually asked, Are you busy at work? More or less. Shen Jilia looked down at his phone and typed, Still working? No, I'm chatting with Luo Ran. Shen Jilia switched off the screen. Is she taking a shower? Yes. I'll go pack up the gym equipment. You can ask her to sleep there later. Shen Jilia stood up and went to his room. Ever since Shen Jilia and Yi Qianqian shared the same room, Shen Jilia had converted the guest bedroom into a mini gym. The tools were a little crude, but they had everything a man needed to train his muscles. There were still a lot of things. When Shen Jilia walked in and picked up his phone again, he saw that Luo Ran had replied to a few voice messages. Luo Ran's voice came through. I think you're thinking too much. If you don't like that girl, just stay away from her. But she's your girlfriend's best friend, so don't make things too awkward. Besides, isn't this a good thing for you? You can show off your skills in front of your best friend. Didn't you say that your girlfriend didn't want to marry you? Have you heard of this saying? If you want to settle a woman, you have to settle her best friend first. Look, once your best friend is settled, all you have to do is get some air, and everything will be settled. You're so wary of a girl, and you're still acting like a bad guy. Who wouldn't have a problem with that? You can't play like this. No matter what, you should build a good relationship with her. Chapter 1737. Luo Ran sent a series of voice messages, and Shen Jilia felt that it made sense. When it came to this matter, Luo Ran was the expert. In the capital, Luo Ran was also a well-known relationship expert and friend of women. After thinking about it, Shen Jilia replied, Well, it takes two hands to clap. Luo Ran replied, Isn't it over? If you serve the girl well, are you afraid that you can't handle your girlfriend? Shen Jilia was convinced. At that moment, he felt that he was a little paranoid. He sent Luo Ran a goodbye message and began to exercise. These sports equipment were added during the time that Shen Jilia moved in. It wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a small amount either. After moving for about 10 minutes, he finally emptied the space near the bed. Qianqian, you can put the quilt that you washed previously. It's done, Shen Jilia said. At the same time, he heard the bathroom door open. Fang Tongtong's wet hair draped over her shoulders. Her thin pajamas were soaked, and Shen Jilia could vaguely see something that he shouldn't have seen. Shen Jilia was shocked. He immediately looked away and turned to enter his room. When he turned his head, he realized that she was wearing the pajamas that he had bought for Yi Qianqian. The silk pajamas were expensive. Moreover, the pajamas were chosen by his grandmother. Shen Jilia had bought them after she sent him a picture. Why was Fang Tongtong wearing them now? Shen Jilia frowned and couldn't help but turn his head to take another look. The light green silk pajamas had been left there for a while, and there were some creases on them. It was the set that his grandmother had chosen. Yi Qianqian saw it and tugged at Shen Jilia. What are you looking at? When Fang Tongtong heard that, she also turned her head to look. Yi Qianqian saw the look on her face and said, Don't you know how to dry your hair? Here. She threw a dry towel at Fong Tong Tong. Fong Tong Tong took the towel and put it on her head. Shen Jilia's lips tightened. He turned around and didn't say anything. After flipping through his clothes, Shen Jilia quickly entered the bathroom. However, Fong Tong Tong's clothes were hung in the place where they used to hang their clean clothes, and the dirty clothes basket was empty. Shen Jilia's expression darkened. He picked up her clothes and threw them into the dirty clothes basket. But just as she picked up a dress, a strapless bra fell out. Looking at the cup size, it was a little bigger than Yi Qianqian's. No double? Twice. Shen Jilia stared at it blankly for a moment, before using the dress as a cushion to toss it into the laundry basket. But halfway through, he changed his mind and threw it into the wash basin. The sound of running water could be heard from the bathroom. When Yi Qianqian heard it, she glared at Fong Tong Tong and asked, "Are you still wet? You didn't use a towel?" "No. I don't know which one is yours, so I didn't use it." Fong Tong Tong appeared to be in a good mood. As she dried her hair, she said, "But your house is pretty clean. I thought you'd make a mess out of it." "Old Shen took care of it." Yi Qianqian was in a good mood. She replied, "I'm getting lazier and lazier. Old Shen loves cleanliness. When he's free, he cleans up the room and cooks." "Damn, you're too lucky. How did you manage to make him so obedient?" The corners of Yi Qianqian's lips turned up. She couldn't hide the smile on her face as she said, "Perhaps he really likes me." Chapter 1738. Yi Qianqian knew that Fong Tong Tong would say that. Ever since they got to know each other, Fong Tong Tong seemed to be envious of her. Everyone had their vanity, especially in front of their best friend. Fong Tong Tong had very high standards. Yi Qianqian was extremely pleased to receive such affirmation from her. The corners of his lips curled up as he said happily, "You can also find a man who can give you happiness." Sigh. Fong Tong Tong sighed. "How can I be so lucky? Outstanding and devoted men are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns these days. It's really not that easy to find one. You're lucky to have met old Shen. Someone like me might have to stay single for the rest of my life." "Of course not. Don't be so pessimistic. It's fine as long as it's fated." Fong Tong Tong sniffled. With an aggrieved look on her face, she said, "I think I might really have to. People like me aren't good-looking, have high standards, and are incapable. You, Qianqian, sometimes I really envy you. You're pretty and capable. You're able to establish yourself in Kingstown and have a good income. You're amazing. Bah, you just haven't tried it yet. You can try it too." Yi Qianqian had always felt that it was a waste of Fong Tong Tong's talent to hide in the tiny Yin town. When Fong Tong Tong heard that, she smirked. "Am I right? You think so too? Pretend I didn't say anything. Ha ha ha. But you really look like your sister. That Xia Yilin has been badmouthing you all day in town, saying that you're half-hearted and brought back so many men. It was only when your sister got married that she found out that the people she saw were actually your sister and brother-in-law." I'm dying of laughter. What a slap in the face. So she really did see it. It's just that the person who saw it wasn't me. I get it. Aha, this rumor-mongering mouth should be punished. By the way, are you and your boyfriend going to work tomorrow? Where am I going to play alone? Are there any fun places in Kingstown? Oh, Yi Qianqian blinked her eyes. Didn't you want to come to Kingstown to play? I've already prepared a strategy for you. When do you get off work? 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Where's Shun? His working hours are more flexible. I don't know when he gets off work. Anyway, I can have dinner at home every day. Old Shin even knows how to cook. Wow, you're so lucky. Fong Tong Tong's face was full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. This won't do. I must try old Shun's cooking tomorrow. Then I'll go play by myself tomorrow. When you get off work, let's go shopping after dinner, okay? Okay, sure. You sleep first. I'm going to take a shower. Yes, yes. Go ahead. Fong Tong Tong waved her hand and smiled like a blooming flower. After Yi Qianqian left, Fong Tong Tong turned around and looked at the large mirror that Shen Jilia used when he worked out. His face was fair and tender with some baby fat. He looked younger than his actual age. Unlike Yi Qianqian's delicate features, she had a round and chubby baby face. Actually, he wasn't that bad looking. Why was her luck so good? But she was Fong Tongtong had always felt that God was unfair. They were both hard-working, and she was obviously younger and more promising. However, the adults in town had never praised her. Fong Tongtong's heart sank bit by bit. She was in low spirits. She looked at the decorations around her. They were very masculine, and her heartbeat inexplicably quickened. Chapter 1739. Bah! This was Yi Qianqian's boyfriend. No matter what, she couldn't steal her best friend's boyfriend. Fong Tongtong slapped her face and shook her head forcefully. She took a deep breath and muttered to herself, "Wake up. You can play by yourself tomorrow. Go to sleep." With that, Fong Tongtong wrapped herself in the blanket and lay down. However, she couldn't help but open her eyes and look at her surroundings. It was a dark environment, and the surroundings were filled with heavy fitness equipment. Only a real man would truly like these cold and heavy things. She didn't expect Shenjilia to be so manly despite his skinny appearance. Indeed, one couldn't judge a man by his appearance. Fong Tongtong closed her eyes, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. After Yi Qianqian finished showering, she returned to her room. Shenjilia was sitting in front of the computer, with a large stack of documents. It looked like he was looking at medical records. Yi Qianqian walked over while drying her hair. She sat down on the bed and looked at the computer. "Are you still busy?" Shenjilia turned around and looked at Yi Qianqian. He looked unhappy and said, "Why did you give that set of pajamas to your best friend?" Yi Qianqian was stunned for a moment and said, "Because she didn't bring any clothes. Out of all my clothes, that was the only set that I wore less so. That was picked out by my grandmother. No matter what, you shouldn't have given it to someone else to wear." Yi Qianqian frowned and was a little unhappy. "Isn't it just a set of pajamas? Why are you so stingy?" Shenjilia's expression darkened. He said, "This set of pajamas has a different meaning. It's the first gift my grandmother gave you. No matter how much you dislike it, it's your business to keep it as a secret. But you gave it away just like that. If my grandmother found out, do you know what she would think?" His words were so serious that Yi Qianqian's expression darkened. She stopped drying her hair and said, "She's my best friend. She's my best friend since I was young. When I was at my poorest in school, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been able to attend university. I only had a set of pajamas, and I let her wear it. I didn't say I was giving it to her. At most, I'll buy her a set tomorrow. I'll take it home to wash and put it back." Shenjilia's expression softened a little. He looked at Yi Qianqian and said, "I'll bring it back tomorrow. I don't like it when someone else wears that outfit." Yi Qianqian pouted and muttered, "You're so petty. This isn't a matter of being stingy. I think it's a matter of principle. Yi Qianqian, this isn't just a matter of pajamas." Shenjilia's tone was a little heavy. He looked at Yi Qianqian with disappointment. She placed her hands on her hips and retorted, "What kind of problem is that? It's just a small matter. You're a man. Why are you being so calculative? I already said that I'll get it back. What else do you want? These are the pajamas I gave you. You can give them away. But what about next time?" Shenjilia gritted his teeth in anger. "If she asks for something else next time, can you deliver it to her?" Chapter 1740. Shenjilia found it a little ridiculous and laughed. "She didn't take any credit for the fact that I'm with you." Yi Qianqian was exasperated. She flung her hair towel and said, "You don't understand at all. Do you know why she's my best friend?" Shenjilia raised his eyebrows and looked eager to hear more. "When I was a freshman, my grandmother was in poor health. My father and grandfather took out all their savings to treat her. At that time, we had nothing at home. Half a semester had passed, and my father couldn't afford to pay for my living expenses. It was Fong Tongtong who provided for me." Shenjilia was silent. "At that time I couldn't even afford to eat. I had to work part-time while attending school. I had to send some of the money back home. At that time, I was so hungry that I developed stomach problems. I couldn't take it anymore, and almost dropped out of school. It was Tong Tong who gave me $200 to eat properly. In the second semester, she even lent me the money she earned from her part-time job to pay for my tuition. Yi Qianqian felt a little sad when she said that. She looked at Shen Jilian and continued, "If it weren't for Tong Tong, I would have dropped out of school. If I had dropped out of school, I wouldn't have found a job in Oya right after graduation. I wouldn't have met Lily, and I wouldn't have met you. So it's all thanks to Tong Tong that we're together now." Shen Jilia was even more silent after listening to this series of karma. When Yi Qianqian saw his reaction, she continued, "Tong Tong is really good to me. I've always treated her as my best friend. All these years, she's been at home, and we've been apart more than together. I haven't had the chance to repay her. It's just a pair of pajamas. Don't be angry, okay?" Shen Jilia couldn't get angry even if he wanted to. He looked at Yi Qianqian and pursed his lips. "When you went to Venice, you brought a bunch of gifts for her, right?" "Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask her to go with me on the trip to Venice. I didn't expect that I'd sprain my ankle, so I couldn't go. The ticket expired. Then why didn't she come to visit you when you injured your ankle?" "She was busy at the shop. How could she have the time to visit me? I told her not to. So she's not busy now." Yi Qianqian immediately shut her mouth and was speechless. Shen Jilia sighed helplessly. "I've never believed in such things." "What?" "Fate. This is fate. Even if Fong Tong Tong didn't help you back then, I believe that we would have met in other ways. But that's how things are now. Do you dare to say that this isn't Tong Tong's credit? This is fate. This is fate. There's no such thing as a credit to anyone." Shen Jilia didn't think much of it. "Everything that happens is destined. Don't dwell too much on the past. People change." She looked at Shen Jilia and said angrily, "Forget it. I'm going to blow dry my hair. I can't be bothered to talk to you." Shen Jilia didn't say another word. He turned off the computer and crawled under the covers. When Yi Qianqian came in, he hugged her. When Yi Qianqian felt his arms around her, she knew that he was up to no good again. He twisted his body and said softly, "There's someone else here. Don't mess around." Shen Jilia closed his eyes and wrapped his legs around her. Sleep. Yi Qianqian was exhausted and soon fell asleep. Dash. Chapter 1741. The next day, Yi Qianqian returned home after a day of work, but old Shen was not home. Fong Tong Tong was not home either. Yi Qianqian raced against time to finish her work, only to come home to an empty house. She called Shen Jilia. The moment the call connected, she heard voices coming from the other end of the line. "Hello, you're not back yet?" Yi Qianqian's voice carried a hint of coquettishness. "I thought I could have dinner when I got back." "Yeah, I have to work overtime today. There's a patient who isn't in good condition. I'm a little busy, so I forgot to tell you. Go out with your bestie to eat." "Oh, okay. Take care and come back early." "Okay." Yi Qianqian hung up the phone and called Fong Tong Tong. Fong Tong Tong was sitting leisurely in a cafe. When she received Yi Qianqian's call, she slowly picked it up. "Hi, Qianqian. Where are you?" "I'm at home. Where are you?" "Old Shen is working overtime today, so he's not home. I haven't eaten yet." "I'm at Xingye Square. Come over. Let's go have hot pot." "Hot pot? It's such a hot day. It's my treat. I'll be right there." Fong Tong Tong smiled and hung up the phone. She continued to browse the web on her phone. It was a guide to a short-term trip to Kingstown. Yi Qianqian and Fong Tong Tong had hot pot together. After that, they went shopping and bought a lot of clothes. In addition to all kinds of clothes, there were also pajamas. They didn't return home until after 10 p.m. Shen Jilia was reading some documents on the sofa in his pajamas. When he saw them return, he only glanced at them before he lowered his head and asked, "Have you eaten?" "Yes, we went to buy a lot of clothes." Yi Qianqian waved the shopping bag in her hand. "What did you eat tonight?" "I haven't eaten yet. Go take a shower. I'm a little busy." Shen Jilia looked at the documents with a frown. "There have been a lot of women committing suicide recently. What's going on?" Fong Tong Tong was a little curious. She placed the shopping bag on the sofa and sat down to look at Shen Jilia. Yi Chanqian glanced at him. After she closed the door, she asked, "How busy are you? You haven't eaten yet. Let me cook you a bowl of noodles." "Okay. Don't put cilantro in it." Yi Chanqian pursed her lips and headed into the kitchen. Fang Tongtong asked curiously, "What did you mean by committing suicide?" "Oh, it's like this. This female patient is an elite returnee. She's an executive of a large company. She was pursued by a man during a business meeting. After the two of them fell in love, the man's wife suddenly appeared and beat her up. She called her a mistress and even scratched her car. She wrote a lot of nasty words on it. Oh, and then Fang Tongtong was obsessed with all kinds of gossip. She rested her chin on her hands and looked at Shun Jilia seriously. Then, the woman went to the man to settle the score. When she was with the man, she didn't know that he had a wife. After they found each other, the man begged her not to break up with him. He promised that he would divorce his wife soon, but in the end, because his wife's family was rich and powerful, he couldn't bear to part with her, and the woman got pregnant. F***ck. That's so melodramatic. Fang Tongtong was shocked. And then, after that, the wife of the first wife beat the woman up again and caused her to have a miscarriage. After the incident, she was fired from the company, and the man disappeared without a trace. It could be said that he had nothing left. He was even cursed by others. In the end, he couldn't take the pressure and committed suicide at home. He didn't die. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.